you just falling onto the floor.
Yeah, I still have bruises, dude. That was amazing.
I swear, I was planning on going to work out because I have a gym here in my basement. I was like, I was gonna, and then after watching, I'm like, I don't fucking work out now. I feel sore
here we
just
go.
watching this video.
We are live, guys.
Awesome.
So let's do a quick mic test. Chat, we're going to rely on you, so don't let us down. You can hear me. Cody, go ahead and say something.
Hello, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me, please.
All right. Mike and Jay from We Watched a Movie. Go ahead, brothers.
Hi. And that's Mike throwing voices.
Quick Loomis impersonation. It's HallowStream. Dave McRae, go ahead.
Yes, I am here. Check 1, check 2, check 48.
No echo or anything, because last night we had a little bit of an echo. But let me check. No, I don't think we have an echo. That's sweet.
I can hear you all, great. I can hear them. Yes, hear all of you.
All right, sweet.
I see Tom Atkins.
I guess we're going to roll with it then. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and roll the intro here.
Sweet.
All right, roll it.
Let the dangertainment begin.
Yes.
Michael Myers ain't a soundbite. Oh shit.
Kill shock.
We watched a movie. We watched a movie.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the horror-thon. Remember the big giveaway at 9.
For God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to please stop it. Stop it now.
Oh, we're on.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
You got your phone? It's not gonna work. Right now, I know I'm wrong. You said that. My phone never does it.
I love Tom Atkins.
Yes.
Hey, we got a super chat. Donald Newton. Thank you, sir.
Oh, shit, already?
Hello, Donald Newton.
Starting off with a bang.
Looks like me and Mike are looking at like a really cool Pornhub video.
You can't get the stream to pull up on my phone. I'm trying to.
I don't think I used any resurrection clips in this intro. No, I didn't.
The world's better for it.
Yeah.
I like that my name pops up on the screen.
Kathleen Kenmont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name pops up on the screen when you see little Danielle Harris at the top of the stairs, and my face is on the screen when What's-Her-Face from Halloween 4's breasts are on the screen.
Dave McBreast.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He strangely only shows up when the McRib is available.
Coincidence? I think not.
Oh. Yes. Yes. Did anybody get a message from Cody? Yes.
Oh, he's frozen again.
Is Cody frozen again?
Yeah. All that matter, he's just really serene.
Oh yeah, he's frozen on
He's ever been.
Skype.
He just looks very happy and content.
He looks like he's gonna start his own fucking dojo. Steven Seagal, no.
Yeah. I don't know why my phone will never pick up the live stream.
Because it was 99 cents.
99 cents.
They had a broken keyboard. I bought a broken
It's
keyboard.
like a Cracker Jack box.
Yeah, I mean, I'd use mine, but like literally, I'm almost like a 0% battery life. And I have to have it so my parole officer can call.
All right. Uh-oh, we got to close that. It was playing the Scream Stream intro next. Okay, what's up, everybody? Now, if you can see that Cody is not in the screen, we're trying to figure out what's going on with him. Yeah, he's not here. Let me go check my Facebook here real quick. I don't know. I know he's having some internet problems.
Cody's a superhero, and every now and then he has to leave unexpectedly. So it's just the way it fucking happens.
He's
Exactly.
probably like he probably leaped into a tall building right now, and he's saving like a couple kids and a puppy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And an elderly woman.
Makes them well-rounded.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I mean,
That's it. He says, "Keep going. I'll try to figure it out. Skype keeps crashing my Wi-Fi." Oh man, that sucks. Okay, so if you can hear that, well, I'll type to him. Keep me posted so he can get back in here. Although if he jumps back on, he'll call back in instantaneously anyway. Oh, he's back.
he is.
The man in the mask is back.
Now let me check. Okay, so let me just resize his window here for a sec. We watched the movie. Mike and Jay, how are you guys doing, man?
Good, buddy. Life. Happy to fucking be here. Pre-working out.
Yeah, we were actually going to do this last weekend, but the schedules, that's the thing, when you got 5 guys, your schedules, you gotta work it out. But we were definitely going to make this happen, and it's after October 31st, but people are still talking about this movie. I mean, it was #1 2 weeks in a row. So.
People are saying our mics are echoing.
Okay, hold on. I know what that problem is. Hold on. That's why I was asking.
Why Lee did research it?
I researched it yesterday.
Dude. Everyone take your hands off. Okay. Oh. I guess I was the only one making it. I was bored.
So Cody's out. Cody, you still there?
No.
I think we lost Cody again.
He had to save another puppy.
Okay. So I think I just fixed the echo, but yeah, Cody's out here. Dave McRae, how are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing good. Is there an echo? Is there still an echo? Comment, folks, in the section, in the comment section, if there's still an echo. Lee thinks it should be gone.
It should be gone now because
somebody just said rest in peace, Cody.
Yeah. Poor Cody.
The echo is gone. Okay, that's good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. Hopefully we can get Cody Leach back on the line. I'm excited to talk about Halloween 2018 for the 800th time in the this week. And why not? I'm looking forward to it. So I'm getting sound like I slapped somebody's ass there.
What are you doing after this?
Bad baby.
And before we get going too, I'll say I noticed the official Halloween movies Instagram account actually shared that we were doing this, and that was pretty damn awesome because I've been following Halloween movies for the website and all that for forever. So it's just an honor for somebody like them to be excited for this. As well as all you guys. It's just really cool. And, I've said this is the final Hallow stream. We planned this whole thing out. We were going to do it I think we did it after the first trailer. And then we did it a couple months later. And then now we're doing it after the movie. Now this whole stream we're going to be talking about the movie itself. It's all going to be about the movie. So, Cody, did you make it in yet?
I believe so.
Okay, cool. So Cody is back.
I had to switch over to my Wi-Fi hotspot on my fucking phone. I have no idea what the hell is going on. That Skype keeps crashing the Wi-Fi signal on my router. It makes no sense.
Very
so we'll see.
What are you looking at himself?
We got 3. Yeah. Let me resize your box here again. Hold on. That didn't sound right.
No, I heard that quite a few times.
Yeah.
Resize your box. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just saying, Cody, that you, the reason why you were gone is really, I know it's nice that you're saying it's because of the router, but really you're a superhero, and you saw the Cody signal, and you had to leave and save a puppy and an elderly woman, and that's really the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you see through see through my plan. So everything's good now. They're like, oh shit, there's another one. Bye. No.
Yeah. It happens. It happens. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Cody
Reads
made it
fast.
too, because it kind of evens the playing field a little bit, because I know that me, Mike, and Jay, I don't want to speak for them, but I know we all like the movie fairly well. And as do you guys, I think, but I know that you guys kind of see a little bit more problems than we might. I think we just like it better than you guys, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
So this kind of evens the playing field a little bit. We can have a friendly discussion about this movie, talk about what, there might even be things that I didn't like that Dave McRae liked. I doubt it, but it could happen. So
You see, and for those in the chat room that are watching, what you are about to watch is a great example of how we all really like each other, and we don't always have to agree on everything, but we respect each other's opinions and thoughts, and we can look at each other's perspectives, and go, you know what, that's a good point. Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. This is how it's done, folks. This is how it's done.
I'm glad you got to say it first, because I was going to say the same thing, like echoing your thoughts there, because I felt like everybody was going to think like, okay, we're all together, we're going to have a gang fight. Everybody's going to pull out billy clubs and chains. Somewhere in the background to be singing Beat It. We're going to meet
Say it was durable.
no touching of the face.
Hey, you hit that gun way too ready to go.
Fuck, yeah.
He's a superhero.
Look it up. It's on Wikipedia.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because I think Cody really took a lashing on his review, his spoiler-free review. Cody, you want to talk a little bit about that before we jump deep into this?
Yeah, like the first day and a half was fucking rough. Like after that, I think a lot more people got to see it, and then the playing field started to even a lot more. But like I saw the movie at like 1 a.m. Thursday morning, so I got to see it like almost a whole day before most people. Got my review recorded, and I dropped it to where I think it was like right before 9 p.m., like right when the first public crowds would be getting out of the theaters, would be able to see it within minutes. I mean, like the fucking dislike ratio was crazy. And, I'm used to trolls. I think we're all used to trolls, but like it was like every third comment. I mean, it was like, wow. Like, it was overwhelming to the point where I actually like kind of lost my taste for the Halloween franchise and didn't even want to respond to anything on that review for like the rest of the weekend. And I even had to, I did my spoiler-free review. It took me a couple of days. I was actually contemplating on not even seeing the movie a second time. It just kind of drained me of all of my enjoyment of that whole review series that I did. Just to work that hard and go through all that and have so much fun just to get to the end and have everybody shit on my face for like 2 days was just, it was rough. A lot of the comments you could tell were people that didn't even see the movie yet. They just didn't want to hear anything but 5 out of 5. A lot of it is people that it's either a 5 out of 5 or it's a 0 out of 100. You can't give any kind of criticism whatsoever. I had just done the review for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which I even acknowledged in the review. I'm part of like 2% of the earth that likes that movie, but I explained why, and that was the biggest thing. I was like, oh, this guy likes Halloween 2. He gives a fuck what he thinks. And then what was even funnier was as soon as Lee dropped his review, he was like, "Oh, this movie's perfect." Everybody's like, "Yeah, Lee, you're the same." I'm like, Lee likes the fucking Rob Zombie's Halloween too.
Save the day.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about it too is like on the flip side of it, I started feeling bad for loving the new movie as much as I did, because I'm like, this isn't fair what Cody's having to go through, and I was over the moon about the movie even after 2 watches, but I hate when people, when fans or subscribers, they treat reviewers like that, because it's just an opinion. At the end of the day, we're not telling you have to have the same opinion that I do about this movie. What I'm saying is a fact. No, it's not a fact. What I'm saying is an opinion. So it's really just weird, the whole dynamic of that. I don't know if maybe they think us as reviewers, we think that what we say is, set in stone. It's not. It's not at all. So I don't know. The whole thing was just kind of weird.
Yeah, the funny part too is I even say towards the end of the review, I was like, look, I said, regardless, and I still liked the movie. I gave it a positive review at the end of the day, but before I kind of gave my rating, I was like, all right, so still, even though I have issues, every horror fan, every Halloween fan, or if you're just curious about it, go and see it, because I think everybody's going to have something different. And I kept getting all these comments like, oh, fuck what this guy says. Everybody go see it. Don't let him discourage you. I'm like, I said everybody go see it. Like, you dumb fuck. Like, it was, getting mad. Getting mad.
Getting mad just thinking about
horror
it.
movies are, and comedy movies even in general, like, they're subjective. I mean, what we find scary or what we find entertainment, like as far as horror movies, like other people aren't going to find that comedy's the same way. Like comedy and horror are extremely hard to tell a story with. I mean, so again, like what I find funny or what Mike finds funny or Dave or Cody or Lee or whatever is the same way with horror. Like what we find in like entertainment-wise when it comes to horror is going to be completely different. But the fact is, you know, overall, like we all enjoyed it. I mean, we have different, you know, some of us praise it higher than others. That's fine. But I mean, Jesus Christ, coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Fuck you, man! You ruined my whole goddamn life. I'm gonna kill you." Like, calm the hell down. I mean, get a, you know, get a girl, get a guy, get something, drink some milk.
I think that's the thing too, is that when you review a movie, if you're not going to be honest with how you feel about it, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, exactly. What's the point?
100%.
Like,
100%. Yeah, it's
come on here and say I liked it when I didn't. Then you why even watch? Like, why am I even doing this? You know?
Yeah. Mike's right. I mean, you know, it's one of the things, and you guys have been doing this a lot longer than I have, and you guys actually review movies. But one of the things that I made very clear on my channel when I started to put my face out there more about a year and a half ago was, you know, I've made it very clear and will reiterate this point on occasion when it warrants it. I will say, listen, this is how I feel about it. If you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, I couldn't care less. Yeah. And I don't say that to be blunt and mean. I say that so if you're angry that I don't share the same thing, don't bother wasting your time going, well, what the fuck, you fucking little fucking, you fucking, because I don't care. You know, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I hope you agree with me, because obviously it's always fun when we can share the same sort of insights. But if all you're going to do is come at me from that perspective, then I don't care. I really don't care. If you're going to say, you know, I kind of see your point and approach it from a more proactive kind of thing, well, then maybe you'll get me to care about how you feel. But I've made that very clear. And I said that at the beginning of my review. Actually, it was my first official review I've ever done, really.
Right.
And I said that, you know, these are my thoughts. And if you share them, great. If you don't, that's okay. You know?
Yeah, I've literally been told to kill myself because I liked Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
I had a troll that told me that I should have aborted my, at the time, 1-year-old daughter and then threatened to shoot me and Lee.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. I can't say I've gotten that, although I have gotten some. Well, I mean, if you watched my video on the strange messages I get, or if anybody in the
you've gotten
comments
some strange ones.
I've gotten some. I've been accused of being racist because I talk too much about Michael and not enough about Freddie and Jason. And, I've been called a Jewish shill, and I'm not Jewish. I'm not even close to being Jewish. You know, all over the place. It's just it's hilarious, nonetheless.
I have to mention this because it's the perfect time to. I'm sitting in the car with my wife the other day, and somebody that was a fan of the channel, like I tagged her in something on the Instagram or whatever, and she's sitting there and she just turns her phone to me, and all it says is, "Your man raped me," and I was like, I swear to God, I didn't. I think they were being funny. They were being like, you know, or they're like, I'm gonna turn your man in for rape or something like that. But that's off-putting.
What did you do, Ray?
You know, it's off-putting for anybody to read. Be like,
of course,
rape someone, or I don't know. Yeah. Like, you know, yeah, people are weird.
Oh yeah, you have to be careful. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, like, about 5 or 6 months ago, maybe it was not that long ago, somebody said to me online, you know, awesome shit, Dave, love your Instagram posts. And I was like, my Instagram posts? I don't have Instagram. And I don't. And it's not that I won't ever have it. It's just I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm just now beginning to remember to tweet more. So I'm thinking, I don't want to bite off, you know, more than I can chew. But anyway, I went on, and sure enough, there were 2 Instagram accounts in my name, which I think were probably put in my name by the same person, and one of them had 500 followers. And I'm like, it's not even me. So I had to, unbeknownst to me, Facebook owns Instagram, so I had to go through that, and I had to prove who I was and say, can you take this down? Because the last thing I want is somebody else saying something horrific or racist or distasteful in mine. It'd be very easy to prove that it wasn't me, but who wants to go through that? Right? You know, so I'm just like, whoa, wait, as flattered as I am, no, that's not me. So yeah, you got to be careful.
Oh, yeah. somebody literally, I'll say this really quick, but I have to throw this in.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Somebody took some of our video from a Friday the 13th review we did a while ago and went on Omegle, and we're getting girls, they were using our video, and they were typing and pretending they were us, and they were getting girls to take their clothes off, and then giving out mine and my wife's cell phone number.
Oh my God.
My wife is getting dick pics from guys who
Holy crap.
I was getting phone calls, and they're like Jonathan, and I'm like, this isn't Jonathan. They're like, oh, is this the fuzzy one or no? Is this the muscular one or the fuzzy? And like, it's this all day long, man. I was getting phone calls and texts, and my wife was
brutal.
Yeah, well, Mike texted me, and he was like, dude, do you know this girl? Do you know this girl? I don't know what to do. I don't know.
What did you do, Jonathan?
Heard that name before. He was like giving me, it was like fucking some weird, like, it wasn't weird, but it was Sherry. I was like, I only know the girl from the song. I don't know a Sherry in real life.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, dude, she's saying this stuff. Like, do you know her? I'm like, dude, I don't know shit. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it's scary ghost shit. Like, because she knew all this stuff about us. And, like, it was fucking weird.
Weird, man.
I thought you were going to say, Mike, Jay, is this yours? Is this your dick?
This is the third time. There will not be a fourth.
Thankfully, I've seen it before. Jeez. Yeah, the dark side of YouTube. Holy crap, man! I could share so many stories. It's insane. But luckily, most of it's good. Hopefully for you guys too. But you always got those stories in there that are. I really need to tell you this one, and then you get some really, scary stories out there. Like, I've had family members threatened that have nothing to do with what I do. So it's very strange. But anyway, we'll start off talking about, I guess, what I call Halloween fever, the box office. I mean, there was just a fever for this movie, pretty much ever since Danny McBride was going to write this thing, and then. I never thought that the box office would be as big as it ended up being. I mean, we're at 200 million worldwide now, so it's really interesting to me that this what I call my little movie. This is my little corner of the cinema that I love, Halloween. That the biggest one before this was Rob Zombie's Halloween, which made I think somewhere close to 60 million before it was all said and done, and that was huge for the franchise. Now like I said, we're sitting at 200 million worldwide. Cody, did you ever expect to reach that level for Halloween?
Not immediately, like not as soon as they announced the movie, but definitely, like I'd say, the last year leading up to the movie, I started to believe that it was going to be big.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought I didn't think that it was going to be as big as It, but I saw it as being the It of 2018, the horror movie the little engine that could at the box office. And especially with the hype and the amount of fans around it, the more that I would hear people in everyday life, like just coworkers that I know aren't horror fans, like, oh, dude, Michael Myers is coming back. I can't wait. Like, it's just one of those recognizable names that if you kind of align the stars, you get Jamie Lee Curtis back, you get a damn good trailer, you get, you make it look like classic Halloween, people take notice of it. Horror fans already take notice of it. Halloween fans are obviously going to be there. But when you start getting the non-horror fans, that's when you get stuff like we've been seeing lately with It, with A Quiet Place and everything, when everybody's starting to kind of, horror's starting to branch out and starting to grab some new fans, So I always kind of had faith in it. Probably the past 7 or 8 months, I was like, this is going to be big.
Well, part of me wonders if, like, Malika Cod and Jamie Lee Curtis and David Gordon Green, I wonder if they all, like, are surprised. Like, wow, I thought it would be big, but I didn't think it would be this big. Or I wonder if they just, they felt like, hey, we got a big hit here. This is going to happen. Mike and Jay, any thoughts on that? Were you guys surprised to see that, hey, 2 weeks in a row it was number one? It's got huge legs. I don't know. Any surprises on your end?
I always said, like, I'm not good at box office projections and all that stuff. Like, I don't know anything about it really, but I always just kind of said, like, if we're playing The Price is Right, just give me $1 over everybody else, because I just, and it was after everybody started talking about it, like you said, Cody, and coworkers were talking about it, and even after I saw the movie, some guy at Kroger was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna say a Michael Myers movie later." I was like, "Yeah, but but after that, I started thinking that, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be huge because, like you said, that the trailer was amazing, the hype was there, and people just want an event. And I think when I was sitting at B-Dubs watching football like 2 weeks before, and I'm looking up at the TV, and when you've been starved for Halloween content for so long, like just nothing, just anything. We've all been doing these channels for forever, talking about Halloween for forever, and it's like you get nothing for so long. And then I'm sitting at B-Dubs and I'm looking around, and like half the TVs have a Halloween trailer playing on them.
It's crazy.
Like, fucking just, it's surreal, And I once that happened, I totally believed in it. I thought it was going to. So I'm not surprised. But I do think Jamie Lee, especially, is surprised. You hear her talk about it, just like her talk at like the numbers and all that. I think a lot of the big name people are shocked. And for us, we're like, you know what? Just like what with Jason getting canceled and all that shit. Like, it's a serial killer. It's a mask and a knife and dead bodies. You can do it cheap. Why is nobody making these fucking movies? We've all been screaming that. Yeah. And it's one of those things. But we as fans have our fingers on that pulse, and sometimes the studios don't. But thankfully, Blumhouse did.
Jay, do you think the slasher floodgates are open now? Do you think we're going to see a lot more slasher movies coming out, sequels, original slashers? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that this movie, for anything, I mean, for whatever it was, like, people loved it or hated it. I mean, it's not like divisive enough. Like, it's not like a Batman versus Superman kind of situation where there was like 50% on one side and 50% on the other. I think it's still generally accepted as some saying a decent movie, that others that loved it. I think it's going to be one of those movies that are the floodgate that opens up the doors for, like a Nightmare on Elm Street resurgence, or a Friday the 13th, or a Hellraiser or something that's going to come out and swinging for the fences. Definitely in the future, you're going to see those properties come back and bigger and stronger than they've ever been before, because they're not like, these studios weren't stupid. They're looking at this and they're saying, holy fuck, this shit made a killing. Like, we can get in this. We got to get our fingers in that pie and start around real good and get something good for ourselves, because we know that Michael Myers isn't. I mean, I know they're doing a sequel. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that later on, but they know that this movie is ginormous as far as a horror-related movie from an 80s icon that kind of petered out in the 90s and now in the early 2000s, and has now resurged with such a gigantic tidal wave at the box office. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, I think the gates are wide open. Now, I don't know personally. I'm just gonna throw this out here, guys. it's just what I'm gonna do. I don't know if it's gonna beat Twilight for me necessarily, but I'm praying.
Sparkly boys.
I'm praying for the Twilight resurgence.
If they make Myers sparkle in the next movie, that would
definitely it's open. Yeah, man, like, we're going to see. I think that's why it's such a great thing for all fans of horror in general, is because of what we're going to get after this.
Well, I mean, even Heather Langenkamp, she has expressed interest in returning to the Nightmare franchise, which I would, she wants to pull a Jamie Lee Curtis and, have one final movie with Freddy. And I think if she's interested, then maybe Robert Englund would be interested in coming back. That's my number one want. Like, I want a Nightmare movie so freaking bad. That's my number one after this. Now, Dave, let me ask you this. Dave saw this movie, over a month ago now at TIFF? And I've been wanting to ask you this, but I figured I'd save it for this stream. Were you, like, chomping at the bit between then and when the movie finally came out? Like, were you dying inside wanting to get your thoughts out?
No.
Okay. Cody,
moving on.
And so anyway, that's it. No, and it had nothing to do with how I felt about the movie. It was just more of a it's a principle that I had, where I gave a brief blurb on Twitter about what I thought. Very brief, very in point form, but I didn't want to do any sort of, and that's, there were people that were like, why aren't you doing it? I've already read about it. I've already read this and I've already read that. And I had to explain to people, if you're reading reviews from IGN or Screen Junkies or Collider or whatever it is, that's their job. They're movie reviewers. They get paid to do that. They have to give a review. They are there at TIFF to cover the movie, so the very next day or right afterwards, they put up their review. That's what they're paid to do. That is what they have to do, or they'll get fired. For me, I don't have to do that. Nobody's paying me to do that. So it was a principle for me that I chose not to talk about the movie, because I know there are a lot of people that follow my channel that take what I say seriously and like to know my thoughts. And It was very nice to get compliments from people saying I'm just as eager to hear your thoughts as I am to see the movie. And I was like, holy shit, calm down, but okay. And that was very nice. But it was a principle. I didn't want to give anybody any preconceived ideas or notions going into the movie, because I know those who take what I say to heart. If I was to say, well, this is, and I really like that, yeah, but I wasn't crazy on then they're going in with that expectation. Because they like, well, Dave and I think kind of alike. And if he didn't really like that moment, well, I'm going to go in expecting not to like that moment. And I wanted them to have their own thoughts and their own opinions. So that's why I waited till Sunday morning of the weekend that it was released to put it up. So, no, I didn't really. I mean, I wasn't eager because I was okay with how I felt about the reasons of why I was waiting so long. So,
yeah.
And now I just want to quickly touch on box office if I could.
Yeah, please.
I had predicted that, and I kept it there because I wasn't fully convinced that it was going to make the money that it did. But my high end was 45 to 50, and my low end was 35. Of course, it smashed that with 77.5 or whatever it was. I think it's important for people that are listening to understand that is a good thing. Okay, it's a good thing for horror. It's a good thing for the franchise. But because there's no way to quantify art, because movies and music and television and paintings, and for the most part is very subjective. There's no way to quantify what is good and what isn't, right? That we tend to, not everybody, okay, but there seems to be this focus on box office results. Somehow, well, look how much, like I had a guy comment to me and say, I can't believe you didn't like the movie, which that's not true. But anyway, I can't believe you didn't like the movie. Look how much money it's making. And I think it's very important for people to understand that box office results doesn't necessarily mean a movie is good. It can mean a movie is good, but they're not automatically mutually exclusive to each other. All it means is that a lot of people went to see it.
Yeah.
The question is, out of those people that went to see it, how many liked it? Because you can't get your money back. All those people that went to see The Last Jedi that didn't like it, their money still goes towards the box office total. So the box office total is not an accurate reflection on whether or not people, it can be. I mean, there are great movies that do well, but it's not mutually exclusive. So I think it's important that we understand what box office means. Box office means that, generally speaking, if it's a movie that has a lot of hype around it, like a Star Wars, like I can tell you right now that Episode 9 of Star Wars is going to destroy the box office, and they haven't even finished making it yet.
Yeah.
I can tell you Avengers 4 is going to crush the box office, and they haven't even, So why? Because there's so much hype around it, right?
Yeah.
So usually, like the original Halloween, that movie started off very slow and made its money by word of mouth. Same with Get Out, right?
Which is exciting.
Which is exciting for sure. So I just want people to understand that I'm not saying that that it's not good. I'm not saying that, but I think we need to have a understanding of what box office results mean. If you have a highly anticipated movie with a proven property, with a film that hasn't been done in years, if you bring back some of the big names that were involved, this John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, Nick Castle, oh my God, he's doing the music, it's going to make a killing regardless of whether the movie is good. Because you could watch the movie and go, I thought that was a shit show, and I can't go back to the box offices and get my money back. I can't, and nor should I. So I just think it's important that we understand that it's good. It's good. We always want it to do well from a business perspective, because what it means for the potentiality of the future of said genre or said franchise. But don't be fooled into thinking that necessarily means that a movie was good, because it doesn't.
I'm just gonna say it's kind of like what you're saying, and I agree. It's like the box office is your parents saying those Randy Jackson weird Wrangler jeans that you're wearing to a school in the middle of the ghetto look great, and those steel cowboy boots aren't gonna get you beat up. And you're like, fuck yeah, I look great, and then you get your ass beat in the stall.
Right. That's exactly what I was saying. It's
the second week. The second week.
Yeah, the second week.
When people start to go see it again and again and again, that's where you go, oh fuck.
Well, and it's a good point, Mike, and I also think it's important to understand as well, outside of Venom, there wasn't much, competition, because most of the competition was counter programming. Right. So you look at the competition, and they said it in Halloween. This was the first Halloween movie to have been released in October since 1989's The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Yep.
Think about that. The
Crazy.
very first Halloween
Almost
movie
30 years
to actually
ago.
be released. Yes, exactly. To actually be released, which is smart. That's when you want it, right? So you have Halloween, you got Jamie Lee Curtis, you got Carpenter, you got Nick Castle, even though it's a cameo, nobody said it was a cameo until the last sort of, you know what I mean? And people were, so you have all this nostalgia, and we're in this nostalgic craze right now. We're in that era right now.
Oh, yeah.
You got Arnie and, Linda Hamilton coming back next year. You got Fuller House, and you got, all these TV shows, Roseanne, kind of, and then you got all these other things that are coming back, and they're talking about bringing Frasier back, and they're talking about doing this movie, and they're talking, and Heather Langenkamp. Oh, I'll do it. Oh, of course you will, Heather. You're not doing anything else right now. And that's no offense to Heather. I'm just saying that when you get on those boards, it's like there's that opportunity, and we're in that era. So, yeah, it's gonna do well. It's gonna do well, right? Of course it will. 100%.
Cody, quick question for you. What do you want now that, with the success of Halloween, like, what does that mean for you as far as, like, horror or even slashers go?
Well, same thing that you said. The number one thing that I want is a nightmare movie. But
yeah.
I'll take the unpopular side of that. I actually don't want them to do what they did with Halloween 2018. I don't want Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund to come back and do a nostalgia piece. I want new. I don't want Robert Englund to come back and do one movie and then all of a sudden we have to restart again. It doesn't really make sense to me. I love Robert Englund to death. But to me, like, even the thing that he did with the Goldbergs, that proved one thing to me, and that is, even though the Goldbergs is a comedy, I get it. That tells me that the general public sees the Robert Englund incarnation of Freddy as jokey, as comedian.
The silly,
it's not
post Dream Warriors version.
And I'm not to say that they couldn't get the correct director and the correct writer and get Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp and come back and make the darkest, scariest nightmare you've ever seen. Not to say that they couldn't do that, but I don't think they would. So I think that if in a perfect world for me, they need to get a good script. They need to get a director that has passion for it, like David Gordon Green and like Danny McBride had for Halloween. They need to find an unknown or close to an unknown actor that can create his own version of Freddy, much like Robert Englund did in the 80s, and go from there. And then if it's awesome, then you have your franchise right there. You got a guy that can do 8, 9, 10 movies. You don't have to coerce him back for 10 years. Come on, one more, Robert. The only thing that I would ever want to see Robert Englund come back for is if we got a Freddy vs. Jason 2. And I don't think we're going to get that.
No, which I actually would welcome that. I'd love that. But
Me too.
I definitely don't see that happening. And I agree with you. And I've said this before. I would actually like if they just got some unknown guy, lay out a trajectory of where they want to go, 3, 4 movies, whatever, and just start planning some stuff and make a whole new Nightmare series. That would be really cool, I think. But
yeah. I think it's very important to get somebody that's really underknown or not known at all, because I always see everybody, the conversations all the time, like questions of the day, like who would be a good Freddy, and you always see like, oh, Kevin Bacon or Johnny Depp can do it, or it's all these actors that are iconic for being Johnny Depp. I don't want to see Johnny Depp look like Freddy. I want to see an actor that I don't know, where when I see Freddy, it's fucking Freddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all I see is Freddy.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, now let's jump into, because we're going to jump into the movie here. Now this is a pretty broad topic, expectations versus reality, but I'm looking for something here, and I'll shoot this one towards Mike. Going into this movie, you were already excited. We saw a little bit of footage from the trailers and all that. Is there something in this movie that really just knocked your socks off, and you said, "Wow, I did not expect that at all"? And did you love it or did you hate it? As far as that, like what blew your mind, as far one particular aspect of the movie.
Yeah, it was definitely the moment that floored me. It was totally the. Are we spoilering?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, this will be complete spoilers. So if you haven't seen Halloween 2018, do not watch the stream.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah,
we'll get it up, I think. But no, when I can't think of his name now, but when the one kid tries to make out with her, and then Michael turns on the floodlights, right?
Yeah.
That scene right after Michael puts him down on the gate and just, jacks his face up, right after he kills him, and then Andy Matichak turns around and she sees Michael standing there, and we're just we're just like out here in the fucking open, and then the best part of the John Carpenter score kicks in with that, how it all of a sudden goes into that boom, like right there in the middle of the score. My jaw was on the floor, man. Like I was taken back by it. I was like, this is full on the pedal to the metal shit that I wanted. And also, just coming to mind at the same point, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. But when Will Patton's driving the car and they're like, keep your eyes peeled, Michael could be anywhere. And all of a sudden, Michael is there and they see him. And this is like, this shit's happening right now. We're in full swing. Mm-hmm. And then he speeds up the car and just nails Michael. I was so excited to see what came next. And even though I was a little bit disappointed about what came next, that moment was just like, I was freaking out. Those are the two moments for me that I was just like losing my shit. Like, this is something I didn't get in the trailer. I didn't know this was going to happen. I've been following every nook and cranny of this movie since day one, and now I'm surprised. Now I'm just fanboy geeking the fuck out right now. Those are definitely the two moments that did it for me.
What about you, Jay?
Oh, like as far as like the moment where I'm like, holy shit, Wild Stallions rule, like that kind of moment. Honestly, for me, I know it was in the trailer, and I get it, and a lot of people felt, I know that some people felt like kind of robbed, because they did show a lot in the trailer, like a lot more than I thought they would. As like when you watch the movie, you're like, shit, they showed that like in the trailer. But the bathroom scene, the reason why that bathroom scene got me was because what you see when it's actually played out in its full length is the fucking viciousness of Michael. The way that, like, I was like, God damn, welcome back, Connor. Oh, I missed you. Yeah. Because it really gets you going on that whole scene, and just. I know he doesn't have the mask on yet, and I didn't, and I'm sure you guys have various opinions about, like, when they were trying to play around with the camera, you can see his face, you can't see his face. I didn't really like that necessarily. I understand why they did it but it was just like the physicality of Michael, like, and the fact that it went graphic, like it got graphic in some of the scenes, and I think honestly, at least the crowd that I saw it with, they were shocked. Like there was a lot of people in the theater that were watching it, and I think that maybe they thought it was going to kind of be a smooth sailing, a Styx song was going to come on, sailing away, real smooth into the night, H2O kind of stuff. I don't know, or like, just kind of like a good cinematic Halloween movie. And then when that Rob Zombie kind of graphic part comes on, and he's smashing faces, and there's just blood and guts and stuff, I really was like, damn. As far as other than that, like the very beginning of the movie, it wasn't. The very beginning of the movie, it wasn't one of those moments that like stood out to me. Like I was like, "Damn, this is going to be a great movie." But I was kind of like, I kind of got scared. Yeah. When the psychiatrist walks in and there's Michael, and he's like, "Don't cross the yellow line." And Dr. Sartain, I know his name's Dr. Sartain, but Dr. Sartain is like, "Don't cross the yellow line." Yeah. He's like, "Don't cross the yellow line," and then he's like holding up a dirty ass mask that he got from the DA because they'd give it to a fucking documentary guy. Cool. Like he has it, and he's like, "Say something, Michael. Say something." I just was like, "Oh my God, don't you fucking dare say something, Michael," because I really got scared for a second.
Yeah. Please don't say anything.
Fucking fart. I'm gonna be bad. I mean, he needs to stay silent. But yeah, I mean, but those two moments stick out to me. But also there was great scenes in it, but that one bathroom scene really got to me. I like that scene a lot.
Just to add to the bathroom scene, because you pretty much just named the two scenes that really like jumped out at me. But the thing about the bathroom scene that really got me, and I will say that is my favorite kill of the whole franchise. I'm putting that out there right now. And the reason being is because the way that scene was directed, how frightening it was, but more importantly, how real the whole thing felt. And I liked that Myers didn't have his mask on yet, because this felt like just a crazed lunatic. So when he's beating Aaron, like, to a pulp, after he does that, then he goes for Aaron's wife. And you see him lifting her up. They don't show him actually, they don't show her face. All they show is her feet. But what's great is the camera is like on Aaron's face while he hears his wife dying. He feels helpless and he feels guilt because he put her in this situation. So I think the decision to rest the camera right there on his face was just brilliant by David Gordon Green. And from that moment, I was like, this is a special movie to me. This isn't just a Halloween sequel. This is something else. And I think that moment really set me up for the rest of the movie, that I was willing to accept what they were bringing, because this felt like a different version of Myers. So yeah, that's my big one. Now, Cody, is there anything in this movie that that you'd like to add that really just jumped out at you, and you were like, this is different. I did not expect this, and you either loved it or you hated it?
Well, the two scenes that had the biggest impact on me, especially the first time that I watched it, on the good side of the coin, was immediately after that bathroom scene whenever he gets his mask back. Whenever he opens up the trunk and he kind of has, it's similar to the Rob Zombie movie where he holds it and it's kind of like this, like finding an old friend almost. He's like, yes. And he holds it for a second and then he slowly puts it on, the way the camera stays on him, and then he shuts the trunk and then the camera kind of shows full on Michael Myers. And I love the fucking mask to death, so it's even better. That whole scene, when I got to that point, I was like, yes, but Michael's fucking back. And I was ready. On the negative side of the coin, the Sartain reveal.
Yeah.
Everything that Mike was saying about how, like, I love Will Patton. I really liked him as a character. I was ready for him to kick some ass. And then you get to that scene, and as soon as that fucking little pen knife or whatever came out, and Will Patton's done, and I'm like this. I'm like waiting, like where is this going? And then he puts the fucking Michael Myers mask on, and I was like, and then he's dragging Mike with one arm, dragging Michael Myers to the car, and then you get the way that he says it's like this mustache toward the make room for my patient, and puts him in the back seat and shit. And I was just like, that whole thing, like that whole 5-minute stretch, I was just like, why is this in this movie? Where is this fucking going? And the whole time, like, it didn't like ruin the movie for me, but it was literally the movie slamming on the brakes. Like, all the momentum that I had, I was just like, what the fuck is this? And then it doesn't go anywhere. And then you get just his face smashed in.
Well, funny enough, my reaction to that was the exact same as yours when it happened. And then immediately I thought, please don't let the rest of this movie be Sartain with that mask on. I think
that's what I was afraid of too.
That's what I was afraid of.
Part of me went there.
Once they didn't do that, and once it got back into, okay, the Myers is back on Michael, I was more accepting of it. And let me explain myself with Sartain too, because I know this is a really hot button topic with this movie, Sartain. I actually liked Sartain because I didn't want another Loomis ripoff. And to me, Sartain was not necessarily what Loomis would have become, but I guess the worst version of, a Loomis type character.
Yeah, he's the yin to the yang.
Yeah, and
like Loomis's obsession. Yeah,
the potential that Myers has. This is how interesting Myers is as a character. That he is capable of driving even his doctor insane, which he pretty much almost did with Loomis. But with Sartain, this is a guy that was with Myers for 40 years. And after 40 years, I kind of buy that he went that apeshit. And he had that part of his brain that wanted to know what it felt like to kill somebody. He was really, like, seduced by that. So I think I was willing to buy into all that. And I thank God that he wasn't, like, he wasn't Myers for the rest of the movie. He didn't have the mask on for the rest of the movie. That would have been completely stupid. Dave, what are your thoughts on Sartain? There's an open-ended question.
Come on, Dave.
Or actually, Dave, if you want to answer the previous question, you can do that too. Like, is there a moment in this movie where you're like, wow, I didn't expect that, that was amazing, or that sucked?
Yeah, let me see, because I can. Let me see if I can get through this quick. Okay. Well, first of all, it's important for everybody in the chat room to know that I liked the movie. I did not like the movie. I liked the movie, but I felt that I liked a movie I should have loved, and I thought what was a good modern horror movie that had some Halloween-y things in there could have been a great Halloween movie overall. So, but you can watch my review on my channel. But anyway, So that being said, was there something that I wanted to? I echo Mike's statement when he said it was after Oscar's death, and Alison sees Michael, and then cue the track that is now known as Alison Chase, or The Shape Chases Alison, I think is the name of it. And it's a great track, one of the best on the soundtrack. It's fantastic, but and I love that. That I really enjoyed. As soon as that hit.
Oh shit!
Uh-oh. Did we lose Dave?
It fucking
No.
Oh yeah, he's frozen.
I took that shit personally.
Let me bring up something real quick.
He's back.
I'm back.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Dave. You're back.
Oh, wait, I'm back.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Okay, I see the delay there. Okay. All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so anyway, when it got to the point with that scene with when I thought to myself, this is fantastic. Like I'm really excited about this. I was like, yes, I felt the same way that Mike did. I thought this is great. My issue with that is that the scene wasn't long enough. At no point in this movie, for me,
Yeah.
did I really feel a sense of overall mood and atmosphere. I felt that there were moments of mood and atmosphere, like this moment is good. That scene, I'm really liking this. But there wasn't this blanket of mood and atmosphere. And some people might think, you're just a Halloween purist. You just want a recopy, of the original. And that's not true at all. When you look at the original film, the way it was shot, the camera angles that were chosen, the pacing, becomes almost a character in and of itself. It becomes part of its identity. And when you're making a sequel to that movie, remember, this is not a sequel to Rob Zombie's films. This is not a sequel to Resurrection or The Curse of Michael Myers or H2O, thank Christ, or 5 or 6 or whatever. It's a sequel to the original film. So there are certain things in terms of style and, execution that I was looking for continuity to be carried over. And I got bits of it. It was like we started the engine and then it would quickly turn away for comedy, or it would quickly turn away for Sartain, or it would quickly turn away for something else. And I felt like the second act had a bit of an identity crisis. I didn't know which sort of what kind of movie it wanted to be. First act was great. Third act felt not bad after the Sartain thing again. It felt kind of good. Yeah, okay, this is what we want to be. The second act felt kind of like, are we a comedy? Are we Pineapple Express? Are we a horror movie? Are we this, that, and the other? So that scene with Alison, when she's running, that's great, but then it ends so quickly. And I thought, I would have loved if this just extended a bit longer. And maybe she goes into the backyard, right, of somebody's house, and she's in the corner, and she's hiding, and she's like trying to knock on a door, but nobody's home, right? And she goes, and we see the shape kind of walking into the backyard, moonlight, hits his mask, and now there's this moment, there's this tension, and the music kind of stops, right? We hear her breathing a bit, right? And we see him, and then the shape moves out of the frame and he's gone, and she's thinking to herself, where is he? And then we see
that scene, by the way.
We hear like the wind, right? And we see a pumpkin, off in the corner. Extend that a bit, build that mood up a bit with this whole scene, and then she takes off again, and he pops out of nowhere, and she's and he's after her again. Just extend that a bit. Let us feel that a bit. It felt like things were very premature. So okay. I'm moving as fast as I can.
No, you're good.
One of the things I will say that I actually liked a lot was, now you guys know me. I'm a huge proponent of the theater of the mind, what you think you see, what you think you hear. I'm not, I think what we conjure up in our own minds will always be far scarier than what, anybody could show us. That being said, I'm not surprised at all that this movie had a lot of gore in it. But I was very impressed with the way they walked this line. There's two ways you could do this, and they chose to actually, a lot of the kills were off screen, right? A lot of the kills were actually off screen. And what was great about it is that I found myself actually liking the reveals of these kills. So it's not like a Friday the 13th film where you're actually seeing the, and the blood spurting all over the place. We're not seeing that here. We're actually seeing the end result, which is very creepy and very eerie and very unsettling. I can only imagine what it's like for police officers or paramedics or firefighters to walk in on a crime scene or some horrific thing, and you walk in and you see something and you're like, how bad was it that this is the end result? Have you ever been in a car and you drive by a car accident and you see the car and you're like, that doesn't even look like a fucking car. Yeah. How bad, how fast was that person going that the end result of whatever it was is that? You know what I mean? So I found myself actually looking at these moments, like when Dave was pinned to the wall or when that mechanic had his jaw kind of torn apart, or whatever, where I'm kind of like, I can only imagine in the narrative, they're thinking to themselves, what the fuck are we dealing with here? Like, what the fuck did that? Like, we're not talking about a body on the ground, just, no, we're talking like that. And it's like, what are we? It's very unsettling. And the fact that we didn't see it happen, we just saw the end result, was smart. Yeah. And it was classy. It was done almost like a display, like you go into your Halloween shop or, you know, whatever it is, you know, and you see these displays and it's like, wow, you know, wow. It kind of played like that. So that's something I actually found myself quite enjoying. Sartain, useless. I mean, I like the Sartain character. I really do. I think he's an important character. I echo what you said, Lee, in the fact that he is, or what Cody said too, the yin and the yang, right? Like the opposite, in the sense that I liked everything he was saying. Whereas Loomis had given up. Loomis spent 8 years trying to reach him, then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized when Loomis had that bull's eyes was purely unsettled, you know, all that kind of shit, right? He was gone. Sartain, on the other hand, was taking more of a grounded approach. Sartain hadn't seen Myers outside of captivity. So he's only known him in this kind of environment. And he's sort of thinking that there's something else here. There's more of a grounded kind of, there's got to be something else. I'm coming at this from this angle. Maybe there's something going, and I like all that. And I even like the idea that, he maybe has this kind of motive that he would love to see Michael and Laurie kind of in their natural habitat, right? That's okay. That's fine. But nowhere was it ever foreshadowed. It was foreshadowed that he had sort of his own thing going on, but it was never foreshadowed that he would take it that far. And it didn't feel organic. It felt sort of like it was thrown in there because, well, we got to get Michael to Laurie somehow. So we'll get the doctor to fucking lose his mind. Then he'll throw Michael in the back and drive drive him halfway. And then as quickly as it starts, it's done. Mm-hmm. So it feels sort of like, what was that for? It kind of felt like, well, we got to it didn't feel organic. Had they actually carried it on and Sartain made it to the house and maybe he dies in the house somewhere or something, maybe that moment wouldn't feel as jarring. But it feels so jarring because as fast as they introduce it, they take it away. And it just kind of felt weird and awkward. And what's his end game? Is he going to go to work on Monday morning as if nothing happened after murdering a police officer? Like, where's he going with this? Yeah. So it didn't feel organic to me. I like Sartain, but that didn't feel organic to me. It felt forced. And it felt like we got to get him to Laurie somehow. Oh, I know. We'll have the doctor fucking flip, because he didn't have to take it that far. But anyway, I could go on and on and on, but that's sort of, I'll try to.
I want to and talk with you, like, the Dr. Sartain thing, as far as like I did at first, I liked this character okay, like it was different from Loomis, but I was okay with it. They had the audio recording of Dr. Loomis in the film, so they paid, they had acknowledgement of that, and that was all cool. It just felt like it came out of left field from fucking nowhere. Like you were getting introduced to this character, and like everything was going cool. Like, okay, I'm kind of getting on board with them. And then, boom, I like wearing Michael Myers' mask and touching him romantically. Like, what just happened? What is this? Is there a dildo on my butt? What happened? And it just came out of left field. And it's like the writers ran out of paper or something while they were writing this scene. I'm not saying that Dr. Sartain couldn't have been more of an established character in the franchise, and he probably could have been. I think that they ruined that in that instance. I love the movie. I really did like the movie a lot, but that really took me out of that moment. I was like, holy shit.
And the reason why it did, Jay, is because they didn't commit to it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have felt, it would have been strange, okay, but they committed to something. It's such a 180. It's such a turn. And it felt like we're going to commit to this for 5 minutes because we need to get him to her. And then once we get him to her, we're going to loosen it up. And it feels exactly like that. It feels like we're going to do this for this, and then we're going to let it go. And that's why it feels so strange. Had he the whole idea of putting on the mask I didn't like and putting Michael in the car, okay. But had he driven them all the way and maybe he ended up in the climactic scene somehow only to meet his death some other way, it might have felt like, had they drawn it out a bit, we might have felt like, okay, but they committed to it and they resolved it. But boy, and they kill him in a Friday the 13th fashion. Nobody's skull, obliterates like that into a pile of like spaghetti. And I wasn't. It was cool if you look at it from another point of view. You're like, oh yeah, look at that.
Well,
but is it Halloween? You know,
if I could defend Sartain's demise a bit, and I will agree, I think there's a better edit in there of his character. I think they could have done something different that would have been better. But I do like how abrupt his demise was, because it's like you're playing with fire, and that's what he wanted to do. He was so seduced by Myers, wanting to understand him or wanting to understand what it's like to kill somebody, that he let that out of the cage. And almost like the second that he let it out of the cage, boom, he's dead. He paid the ultimate price, because as soon as he let Myers out and then he puts him in the back of that car, as soon as Myers comes up, because if you remember, he says Judith. And when he says Judith, it's like Michael, the trigger was set off again. And then Myers pretty much just kills him instantly. It's like the rage took over. And I've heard a lot of people say, why didn't he kill the granddaughter? Because she was right there next to him. But I think he killed Sartain because he was the one that said Judith, and that set him off. And he was like, okay, I got to kill this guy now. And so Sartain was dead, and then we move on to the rest of the movie. In my mindset, because of what I thought Sartain was as a character, it didn't bother me that Myers, he took care of this problem immediately. Go ahead, Cody.
My overall issue with Sartain is kind of an overall issue I have with the writing altogether, because there's a couple of characters that fall victim to this. It feels like Sartain only exists to get certain plot points connected to each other. You know what I mean? Like Dave was already talking about. We got to get Laurie and Michael together because we promised it's not going to be a sibling thing, so we have to invent this reason. When to me, you could invent 10 more reasons that make way more sense. He could have just as easily had followed the granddaughter to the house, and then you have that whole thing right there, and you don't even need all that crap.
100%.
But like Sartain, when that twist happened, and it took like a good 15 minutes after that for me to kind of understand, because they don't really spell it out for you and hold your hand through it. But when they do that twist, they're meant for you to have like a little flashback in your head and say, oh, so that's how the bus crash happened. And that's why he let them bring the mask in and set him off, when no doctor would ever fucking do that if he was a professional. So it's just a reason to like cover up these little logic issues. And I had said in my spoiler-free review, even though I'm not a writer, but to me, it felt like it would have had more impact for me personally, for the movie and for the character of Laurie Strode, if she was the one who accidentally caused the escape.
Yeah.
When they set up that scene where she's sitting there and she's drunk and she's been waiting for this night for 40 years, and I'm face to face with the shape, and then they just cut, and then she's at fucking Bennigan's, whatever, with her family. They could have just as easily had made a scene where, the bus is going along, and then all of a sudden, wham, just her fucking truck hits it or something, or causes a crash, because she's going to end this motherfucker. This is the reason why I have lived the past 40 years, to end him. That's what they start the movie with. And then Myers gets the better of her, or sneaks around, gets in her truck, does the thing that he does in the 1978 film, just gets in the car and leaves. Fuck, I just caused this. And now now the rest of the movie, not only is she carrying even more guilt because of whatever happens from now on is my fault, but now she's on a warpath that the movie and the trailer set up for her to be on, which doesn't really even get started until the third act. So that right there could have been a much better alternative to the Sartain character, in my opinion. And then you could have...
Shit, though. That's some great shit. I like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And to me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. Like, when I saw the movie, I'm like, why didn't she cause the bus...
Cody was actually the original... I believe that actually was written. At least I've I've heard that. And, you know, you could have developed her character a bit more in the sense that now she's feeling guilt for letting him go. And she's maybe even trying to hide that now from her granddaughter and her daughter. And maybe it sort of comes out a bit towards the end, or, you know, something to that effect. But no, I like that. I don't think there would have been anything wrong with that. I mean, she caused the crash because she wants Adam, man. She wants Adam, you know, but she screws up.
Yeah, and that's the color that they paint Laurie Strode with this movie. You know, this is not H2O Laurie, where she's this innocent, you know, woman that's done so much to get rid of this. She has a son. She's not necessarily the best mother, but she's just trying to move on. This is somebody who's just like this broken person waiting the 1978, that night has just consumed her. So I don't think it would have been out of character at all for her to do something like that. You know, that people have the argument, well, then she's responsible, then we don't like the character. Why? You know what I mean? That totally would have fit.
You don't like the character? What do you mean you don't like the character? It's nothing. You know? Oh yeah, no, I don't buy that.
But
well, if I can get into the mindset of the writers, you know, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, I'm thinking they probably didn't want to go the direction that everybody thought you should go this way and you should go this way. It's almost like saying, let's follow a template. You know, I mean, if you even thinking back to like Halloween 5. Yeah, Loomis went all the way to the end of the movie to save Jamie. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, Loomis ends up going to the end of that movie. I think their mindset was, do we really want to do that again? Do we want to make the same movie we did before? Or do we want to gamble a little bit, take a risk? Yeah, we're going to probably piss off a lot of people, but maybe some people will appreciate that, hey, maybe we're trying something different with this movie. You might not like it, but at least you don't have the same movie that you had before. So maybe that's the mindset that they were going with. Mike, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Sartain as a character, and, you know, did you like the way he was painted?
I think, honestly, like, I didn't like that twist just as much as anybody else didn't. Like, when, Will Patton dies, Will Patton could have been a great character.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He should have been the sheriff.
Yeah. I fully expected him to die, and by the way, the guy who plays the sheriff, I can't help but feel like he was put there to be in a movie in the future. Like, it seems like he has something to him, you know, and he just wasn't used. But I think
he's a useless stooge. But go on.
What we gonna do? Cancel Halloween?
Oh, fuck!
He is the mayor in Jaws, you know. He's that guy, but he's got something to him that I feel like they wouldn't have given that moment to him if they didn't have something in mind for him. And I think there's other things laced throughout the movie like that. But with Sartain, I couldn't help but think that the writers were thinking exactly what I felt, which was, I'm watching Sartain and I'm seeing him and I'm like, fuck, he's got some of the cool Loomis stuff. He's weird. He's got eyeshadow on. It's strange. You know, there's something cool about him. But at the same time, I can't really buy into it because he's too much like Loomis. Yeah. And I'm like, you can't Force Awakens. You can't really just recreate that same type of character and do that again. But I also like him. So I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to feel about this guy because he's funny. He's cool. I'm interested in his character. But then I started thinking, and I'm like, I'm watching them in the car, and he's talking to Annie Matichak. And I'm thinking, man, I like you, but you're too much like Loomis. And I can't help but wonder if the writers didn't have that same thought. If they're writing them and they got halfway through and they went, fuck, this is way too close.
Yeah.
Thought we got to do something. And then maybe that's where the twist came from. Maybe they needed something to get. And I do hate the idea that he's the reason Michael gets to Laurie, because it doesn't answer the question that you asked when you took away the sequels. Michael's not after her because he's not her sister, right? You took that away, but then you also have Sartain mention that this weird quick blurb where he's like, maybe they need each other to survive, and you know, for lack of a better word, he's like, maybe they survive because of each other. And I'm like, but I thought the whole idea was that Myers was random, and he decided to kill her, and we don't know why, and that's what's scary. So why take that away? And then I agree with you guys on the fact that I don't like that Sartain dropped Michael off in front of Laurie's house, basically, just so we could have that event happen there. Because then it creates problems with the sequel. Like, okay, well, if Laurie's still alive, as they left her bleeding, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, but Is he going after Lori or is he not? Was he dropped off in front of her house and he noticed her? Did Lori find him because she's the new Loomis? It puts a lot of really, really weird questions out there. But
it definitely did that.
Huh?
And that was one of the issues I had too, because I was one of the people who were more excited than most that they were getting rid of all the sibling family dynamic thing, because I've always been one that thought that was just kind of a weird angle. So I've always, like, as soon as they said we're getting rid of everything, they're not siblings anymore, I was like, oh yes. And to me, aesthetically, the movie plays out exactly the same whether they're siblings or not. It really doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
And just like you said with the sequel thing, so now, and that was an issue that I had. As soon as they announced Jamie Lee Curtis, I actually put a video up saying the negative of where that could go. Because if you're getting rid of the sibling thing, to me, that opens up this whole world of where you could take Michael Myers with no motivation, which is the scariest version of Myers, which is what the original intent of the character was. And with the direction they took this movie, and especially with the way that they ended it, which is something I'm sure we're going to get into, so I'll save my thoughts on that, they handcuffed the franchise once again to Jamie Lee Curtis. And we can't have Michael without Laurie. And it's just like, it's the same fucking thing if they're not siblings then.
I 100%.
Dave, I got a question for you, because Cody brought up a good point about Jamie Lee Curtis. And I do agree with him. I mean, this is the problem that I've had with the franchise since H2O. Is like, okay, Laurie Strode's had her turn. She was awesome in this movie, by the way. I will say that. Like, when I went into this movie, I was like, I want her dead. I want her dead on the ground by the end of this movie. By the end of the movie, I was like, I want her to live. I think she's pretty badass, actually, in this movie. I love how emotional Jamie Lee Curtis, got in this movie, especially in that scene where she's like waiting for the prison transfer and she's like screaming. I've never seen that side of Laurie Strode before, and I loved it. So having said that, though, it kind of like, I don't want another movie that just focuses, unless it's a great movie. I'm totally for that. But Dave, do you want another movie with Jamie Lee Curtis?
Kind of have to. I mean, that's what
I was just gonna say, you should scale it back to Dave. Do you want another?
Hypothetically.
Do I want another? Well, I just don't know what the end game is. Like, I mean, I sit there and I think to myself, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat room know my feelings on it, but I share the same view as Cody, and I barfed all over this on my channel for a year and a half that, the original intent of the character was he was the absence of character and the absence of motive. That was the original intent. And I could go into why, but that'll take too long. So I'm okay with the fact that they're not siblings. That never bothered me. I didn't think they would have the balls to do it because of how embedded into the pop culture consciousness the brother-sister story arc is, but they did. They did away with it. Okay, great. So here we are. Well, now you kind of end the movie, and I think the movie actually ends okay. I think if they never made a sequel, which obviously they will, but let's hypothetically say they didn't. They never did. I don't think 5 years from now, either of us would be going, fucking damn it, what the fuck happened next? Jeez. Like, I remember as a 10-year-old in 1989, after watching The Revenge of Michael Myers, of course, even at 10, I knew it was kind of like, eh. But at 10, I was like, well, who's the man in black? Who's the boots? Where's the guy? And for 6 years, I was like, what the fuck happened next? What the fuck? It was just like, I didn't know I was like this guy. And then finally in 1995, I was 16 and I was, I went and saw The Curse of Michael Myers. But this movie kind of ends, and it ends very symbolically in the sense that a lot of this is kind of funny, and this is not to, but of course, it ends with them in the back of the truck, and Alison has the knife. And people were like, "Oh, that's a throwback because Laurie was dropping it all the time. They're showing that Alison has it all the time." I don't think it's that literal. I think it's just showing sort of that it's a pass down of strength. Okay, that the trauma, the fear is going to end here. It's going to end with her. It's not necessarily going to be passed down from Alison. She has the strength. She has that knife now, right? She has that strength. And I think it's sort of like, yeah, that's it. Roll credits, and I don't feel this need for it to go on. I don't feel like they necessarily have to go on, because if they do, as Cody said, well, what's your end game here? So, well, we're going to bring back Laurie. Okay. Well, what if David Gordon Green doesn't direct the film? Because Jamie Lee Curtis said, I'll only come back,
Yeah.
famous last words. You know, money, 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 money. But I'll only come back if David Gordon Green does the movie. Okay, let's say that's true. And let's say he doesn't. Well, what's the end game? Laurie just dies? They're going to write her out in some sort of like Halloween opening crawl? Like, I mean, what do we... And then that feels sort of like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of this movie that we just watched, because this movie was supposed to be Laurie and Michael and I don't know where you go from here.
It's
Do
a
I
tough
think they could make a decent sequel? I think they could. But like I've said, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, if their plan is to make a new series out of this, remember what I'm saying here, folks. You can bet your ass that in 5 years and 6 films later, we'll be right back where we started before this movie. Yep. Because if their end game is to make a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, you know, I mean, well, then what are you going to do? I mean, you know, you're going to be right back where you started, because eventually the narratives are going to wear thin, the characters are going to become predictable, and you're going to have to introduce motive to justify keeping him around. And then you're going to have to turn him into some sort of supernatural being to justify keeping him around. So I think you could get one sequel out of it, but, you know, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of like, Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. Yeah, okay, but then what, are we just going to do the same movie over again?
Well, I'm going to say what Dave is saying, and I agree with you 100%. We literally did a video earlier about the Jamie Lee Curtis kind of thing, and
it's not out yet.
Well, yeah, I mean it's in the previews, but yeah, but we just talked about it, and like the thing about, you know, did I want Jamie Lee Curtis back in a sequel? Fuck no. Like, I mean, I love Jamie Lee Curtis as an actress. I think she's a great actress. Laurie Strode's a great character. But at this point, I thought the coolest thing that they could have done with her overall would have been to have her go out on a hero's ending with Michael Myers, to finally end it with Michael Myers. Okay, so at the very end of the movie, right, when he's locked down, you know, and you find out that this entire house is set up as a trap,
right?
Have her grab his ass and cook with him, right? You know, she's
That's
like,
one way to do it.
So she knows he's gonna burn, and she's dying and saving her daughter and her granddaughter's life, and then go from there. Obviously, Michael Myers can survive. I mean, he's a supernatural being if you want to go that route or whatever. But the fact that you have this scene at the very end of the movie that supposedly was reshot, we don't know. I mean, you know, Mike had pointed out to me that there was rumors that there was a different ending.
There was.
It's in the trailer.
Right. So, you know, we don't know. I mean, is that the scene where she's like stabbing Michael? And
the original ending, from what I've read, is basically the same exact third act up to the point where the dad dies, the dad character, and then eventually, when the granddaughter shows up, they end up going outside to find out what happened to the dad, and then Michael shows up in the door, which is the scene that they showed in the trailer, and then Laurie and Michael get into a knife fight. Laurie gets really badly wounded, and then all 3 of the women gang up on Michael and basically presumably kill him. He walks off and then drops near all of the mannequins that she shot, and then we have the same exact ending where they drive off.
See, I would have done, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you know, people want respect given to the character of Laurie Strode. Having her, again, just my own personal, like, vision of how I thought this might go down is her tackling him to the floor, holding him there, as the fires kick out, and yelling, you know, to her daughter and granddaughter to get out of the house. As
that would have been great.
Yeah.
Or if he chopped her head off.
Either, you know, I really think that either her or Judy Greer's character needed to make a sacrifice.
Well, and that's the tragic hero's ending. And I know that a lot of people wanted to see Jamie Lee survive because she did so phenomenally in this movie. I mean, really, she brought this character back from. She was great, and gave it some, like, you know, energy that it hadn't had in so long. And that's great and that's wonderful, but I wanted it to end the arc.
Yes.
Once and for all, right now.
I agree with you.
Bang on.
Like, and I think that would have given the character respect going out on that note.
But for some reason,
that was it.
They left her bleeding in that truck on purpose.
Yeah, and
it gave him an out in their minds at the time.
Well, I think that Jamie Lee Curtis probably threw her weight around because she was really promoting this thing as like a Me Too movie. This is going to be about, even after the movie came out, she was posting all this thing like, yes, #1 movie starring a woman, and it's so woman prevailing over the man, and every single evil character in the movie is a man. Not to get too much into that, but you know what I mean. It's just it's one of those things where
that still could have been conveyed, as Jay was saying. I love that all hell is breaking loose. Michael's in the basement. The things go like this, whatever. But she happens to be down there, and Karen, and Allison are up there. Mom, what are you doing? Get out of the fucking house! Get out of the fucking house! The thing goes up. She's jumping on him. She sacrifices herself. I mean, yes, maybe you're going to piss a lot of people off, but what do you want? Because then what's the point of this movie? So it ends, and then the next movie begins, and we go through the same thing. Lord, he's back. I got to go fight him again. I mean, it's so like, but we just did this.
The happy ending should have been her saving her daughter and her granddaughter, who never listened to her entire life. Yeah. But she stopped Michael from killing them. And then you know what you can do if you do that? You can have them ride off into the sunset. That is the true happy ending. Right. You're not tied to those characters anymore. Michael can go forth and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Michael doesn't have to die. She just has to save her family from him, and then she still wins in a sense. But
here's the thing, though, too.
I think she threw her weight around a little bit, and I think she said, I might come back for a sequel, and then maybe the studio felt the need to keep her in it, and they didn't want to close that book. They didn't, in a way, they didn't want to Halloween 5 it, and they accidentally did it. Mm-hmm. Because and ourselves an opening, but by leaving themselves an opening, they made it really confusing and vague, and now we're all...
Right, well, and Mike's bang on, because, if hypothetically, let's say they did exactly what we were saying, would there some, be hardcore fans that would love, for Michael to go on? Yes, 100%. Of course, right? But imagine the ending we just talked about, because it would be so powerful emotionally, especially for the hardcore fans, right? I think in 5 years, hypothetically, if they never made another one in this time, maybe 20 years, they reboot it, who knows? Yeah. But in this sort of thing, I think each and every one of the hardcore fans would be like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Because it was so emotionally powerful.
And you know what?
So emotionally powerful.
I mean, Cody, Dave, Lee, Mike, all you guys, if Michael had, because again, they were keeping it very vague, whether or not Michael was supernatural. I mean, the motherfucker took a shotgun blast to his hand and never made a sound. I mean, Jesus, Mr. T. I mean, I don't know if he's supernatural at that point or whatever, but if she goes out with him in that ultimate hero sacrifice, I went into the movie expecting it, and I even now I'm still kind of putting it in an alternate universe of Michael Myers. They can still do a sequel if they want to Resurrection. They can have Halloween 9. I mean, they can still do whatever the fuck they want to do. I mean, this movie's made enough money where they can do whatever they want.
James Bond
the shit out of it. But if this was the last movie, like, that's it. Jamie Lee Curtis, fights her demon, finally takes him down, and that's the end of the story, and Michael cooks with her and burns and gets what he always wanted, which was Laurie Strode in the end, to complete whatever he needed to complete in the original 78. I mean, whatever that may be. You keep it vague enough, you keep it mysterious enough, but it ends. I would have been all right with that. I mean, I don't want Michael to die.
No,
nobody wants Michael to die. I don't want
sequels.
I know, I need sequels.
30, 40, 50 years.
I know, I do. It's an alternate universe. I mean, I don't want to see Michael die. I don't want to see Freddy die. I don't want to see Jason die. But if this was a one-shot, if this was just a thing they do, and this is it, it's Jamie Lee Curtis's swan song with Michael Myers, I'm okay with it if it ended that way. But the fact that you have the truck ending that is
Michael's driving the truck, everybody.
Yeah.
If this was an Elm Street movie, that's what they totally would do that.
Oh yeah.
I
drove away.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The ending is Halloween 4. I mean, the creaky ass truck. And it's got the hatchback thing, and they're all sitting on the back of it. It's Halloween 4, where you crawl up on the back of Halloween 4 and whooped all those rednecks' asses and shit. So what are they gonna do? Like, okay, so now the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is alive, from what we presume, is she gonna bleed out in the truck on the way to the hospital and just tell her daughter and granddaughter, like, be strong. Michael's still out there.
If she doesn't come back, they can kill her. If she wants to come back, they can keep her alive.
It's fucking.
But it takes away. It diminishes any sort of whatever you were trying to create in this first movie with her. Like you're selling it on this final confrontation. Could the final confrontation have gone one of 5 different ways that maybe would have been more satisfying to us? Sure. Okay. But it was what it was. But if you don't end the movie here, or if you don't move away from Laurie Strode and you bring her back, you're going to have her going at it again. And I know there are some people, I don't care. I just want to see it all over again. I know there are some people that are like that. Okay, fine. But looking, I can hear through the comments now. But when you're looking at it, it's kind of like, it's like, it's like, what are we doing here?
And I totally agree with you guys. As much as we like the movie, both Jay and I like the movie better than you guys did.
Except the lead.
Except for me. I was
us and Lee, loved it so much more than you guys.
We liked it.
But I get all the stuff you're saying.
Family, Halloween, sex.
Yeah. I'm still over the moon about it. I fucking love it.
But yeah,
the thing is, let me ask you guys: if Michael's driving the truck, I know this is crazy, and it's hard to figure it out, but a lot of people think it's happening, and it would make. You know what? If Michael is driving, if some fucking happen, I know.
So
hey, weirder shit's happen, man.
So weird.
Weirder shit's happen. But if Michael is driving that fucking truck,
well,
if he is, then what you get, if you do bring Curtis back, is you literally get the Halloween 2 to Halloween 1 all over again, a continuous movie that goes on and it keeps going. Listen, I don't want Michael. If Michael's driving the truck, it's fucking stupid. What has he got? Does he like kick the wall in and then jump out and then I'm in the fucking truck and then I'm around the corner? Like it doesn't make sense. That. But if he is in the truck, if you can make it plausible with writing magic, then you do get you get the 78 to 81 Halloween continuation if you do a sequel. And like Dave mentioned in the last Halloween stream, which I thought was interesting, if you just want to make a trilogy out of this, it puts you right in fucking line to do that.
And Mike, you're totally bang on, and it feels like it's the only, because listen, they've gone back to the roots of the character. Who he's a person with this slight supernatural edge. Okay, he's not like Jason from The New Blood. So, and there's a line, for those of you that don't remember, there's a line in this new Halloween film that was clearly intentional. It read, no pun intended, like that, was when Laurie says something to the effect of, and he's a human being. We have to remember that. She says that point blank right in the house. That's their way of saying, hey, listen, this is not Curse of Michael Myers. This is not, this is 1978 Myers. Okay, great. Well, we can justify how he shits and pees and eats and this kind of stuff because he's been locked up for 40 years. Well, where are you going to continue this? If you're playing to that Michael, this is why I've said that the original intent of the character, whether people like to admit it or not, or realize or not, the original intent of the character has a shelf life. He does. He works best in 1 or 2 films because of the kind of character he is. So as Mike said, it almost feels like that's the only way that you could do a sequel to this movie and have it feel almost organic, is to pick up immediately where the second one, the second, third one, where this new one leaves off. Because then you don't have to worry about, well, where has he been for a year? Where has he been for 5 months? How is he eating? How is he shitting? How is he peeing? How is he, brushing his teeth? Whatever the case is, you can actually just justify, well, he's the guy in the truck, and it picks up immediately. And as fucking weird and as 1988 Elm Street 4 that might be, it feels very sort of like, well, yeah, it's almost kind of in the ballpark of what they're going to have to do if they want to continue this with Laurie, because then we'll watch it and be like, oh, well, it's a continuation. It's the same movie. It's not done yet. Oh, it's not done yet. There's more. Because if you begin this new movie a year later, well, where the fuck has he been? The fuck has he been? Has he been naked on the beach fucking eating Cheetos or something? Like, where has he been, right?
Let me tell you how they can continue this. Okay? Hold on. Let me tell you how they can continue this. Because if you remember in this movie, Laurie Strode, in my mind, Laurie Strode's not the target. She's not the target at all. Myers just wanted to get out. Once he got out, he was led to Laurie. So, at the end of this movie, Laurie lives, her granddaughter lives, her daughter lives. Michael doesn't give a fuck. Michael is going to go to some other town, and he can wreak havoc on some other. He probably wants to get away from Laurie Strode, and they could go that route with the next movie if they wanted to. If they wanted to write it to where Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't really have to return if we don't want her to. And if we don't get David Gordon Green back, then she might not anyway. I think it was smart for them to not do the sibling angle because Michael is really just a force. That's really all he is. So he can still stay in Haddonfield, or he can go to the next town or whatever, but he doesn't necessarily have to even have the Strodes as a target. And that kind of interests me, actually, because you could still have some threads of Laurie in the next movie.
This is my issue. This is my issue with that, though. It keeps going back to what Dave is saying. That ruins the entire point of this movie. That would make, to me, it would make absolutely no sense. It would make absolutely no sense to me whatsoever to have this whole movie where Laurie has been spending 40 years obsessing over this one night, this one guy, and then she thinks that she killed him, and then 5 minutes later he gets away, starts wreaking havoc somewhere else, and she doesn't show up. That doesn't make any sense.
They'd have to do some heavy editing in the writing room, to make that story, and still kind of, use her in the next movie in some way. But it'd be a tough script to write. I will give you that, Cody. But I still think it fits to the essence of what Myers is in this movie and in the very first movie. He doesn't really care about Laurie Strode.
That's what I'm saying. That they could have conveyed exactly what you're talking about and go that route if they had just done some small edits to this ending, like kill Laurie Strode or kill her dog. Give something aside from, well, we've killed Michael, and then not only that, you have this issue too. Not only that, you have this thing where, okay, so we're supposed to invest in the character of Laurie. We're supposed to believe she's this badass. She spent 40 years creating this fortress of a house, but the one fucking thing she didn't check was to make sure that this room is impenetrable. There's no possible way that Michael will get out no matter what. This is the clincher of your plan, and the ending of this movie basically says, well, Michael got away in 5 seconds because he's there, and then he's not, and then you hear the breathing. So it's like, okay, well, he's coming back.
What they should have done. And when I say should have, again, it's subjective, but what they could have done, to Cody's point, is that, to really utilize that ending, if you want to continue on, they should have had the balls to kill Laurie off. But you don't just kill her in some sort of, oh, come on, fuck you, Blumhouse. You don't do that, okay? Yeah. What you do is you have her go out. Remember, she has a strained relationship with her daughter and her granddaughter. Okay, we know this. Okay, they're not that close. I mean, they kind of are, but they're not. They're not. Okay, there's something there. So it's a little cliche. You might be able to see it coming, but it works. It works, and it's satisfying. It's like, it's a pie that you have all the time, but it's fucking good. So what they do is they build on that. And then towards the end of the movie, she sacrifices herself to save their lives. Okay, and it's something, and it's still, you bring Laurie up to here. She's up to here. She's at this pinnacle moment where she's fighting the shape, sacrificing herself, to save the lives of her daughter and her granddaughter, and she does it in epic fucking fashion, where we all leave the theater going, that was fuck, and we don't feel like we kind of go, oh, it's, we take that moment where it's like, Laurie's gone, because there's that emotional attachment to the nostalgia of the character. But when we think of her, we go, but fuck, she went out in a blaze of, no pun intended, a blaze of fucking glory. And that's sort of like, that's the kind of thing that you want. And then she's dead, so you don't have to. And then this movie with Laurie still feels like it reached that pinnacle and feels satisfying because she went out on top. She went out on top. She didn't go out, but then everybody survived and she's got to go do it again. You know what I mean? Like it feels like she's gone, and now you can now you can actually take Michael, because Alison and Karen are not strong enough characters. There's not the history there with Michael, that if part 2 of this new one, if it didn't even deal with the Strodes or without, it wouldn't feel as strange. I mean, it might feel a little bit to some, but if they went forward with Michael wrecking havoc somewhere else, it would feel a little more organic because we're not as emotionally attached to Karen or Alison, right? But with knowing that Laurie is alive and not having her in it after this epic thing, as Cody said, would feel kind of strange, feels counterproductive to it.
I was gonna say, Dave, you're hitting all the fucking beads right now, and that's, I agree with Cody, and I agree with all you guys right now. The fact that if you take the boundaries off Michael and let him, if you take the boundaries off Michael and let him go and do his own thing, like, it makes Michael a force. Like, Loomis always talked about Michael being a force of pure evil. And even in this 2018 movie, you know, when you have the recording going, and he's like, when the vitals are gone, burn it. You know, don't just stop with the vitals gone, burn it. It doesn't need to be like, and you know, I think it was cool that he refers to it as it. He doesn't even refer to it as a him or he. There's no connection as far as it being a human being anymore.
It has to die.
Yes.
I love that scene.
Get it fucking hard.
That's an excellent. Sorry, I just want to quickly, before I forget, that's an excellent point, Jay, because it goes back to what he said in the car at the beginning of the 78 film. You know, you have to understand what we're dealing with, you know, here. Don't you think we could refer to it as him? If you say so. It's also why I think Laurie, which would have brought her character up a little bit, little details that I think they missed the ball on. She should not have been saying, I've been waiting for him, he's been waiting for me. She should have been saying, I've been waiting for it has been waiting for me. Because it shows that acceptance, it shows that arc, that she is now at that level, that she understands what this, whatever he is, you know, is capable of. Exactly. Right, and that's an important thing that I think they missed the ball on.
Absolutely.
Just to address the chat really quick, I got somebody that said this is all an assumption that they're actually going to make a sequel. There is absolutely no universe in the fucking world that this is not going to have a sequel. Like if you had the Avengers and if you had Avengers Infinity War and you had Doctor Strange doing his little thing and he said how many universes did there no Halloween sequel in? He'd be none. So
yeah, it's happening.
Anyway,
the money this movie made, yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, they're gonna print their own fucking money. So it's there's no way in hell this is not getting this.
And the turnout's gonna be huge because a lot of people were going more than once to see this movie. You know, they were caught up in it. So yeah, I guarantee you that opening of the next movie, if they can promote it right, if they have good trailers and all that, it's gonna be massive.
Well, what I was gonna say, like as far as again, I'm echoing all your guys. Like I think that what would make Michael scary and reinvent him for the future is to have him, you know, kind of like Doctors with No Borders. Like this guy can go anywhere and fuck with anybody. It doesn't matter anymore. You can't control or contain that evil. And the fact that it is just evil, we don't know the end game of Michael Myers. Like that's always been cool to me as far as like, you know, the other iconic characters that have come out before him. Freddy Krueger, you kind of figured out early on, he wants revenge on the parents of Elm Street by taking their children away from them, from what they did to him. Jason Voorhees is the same kind of way. You come into my shit, I'll fuck you up, Tony. You know, it's kind of like that. And then you get to Michael Myers. And Michael Myers is just
a killer shark.
You don't understand what the hell is going on. Like he has a William Shatner mask on that's spray painted white, and there's no emotion. And he killed his sister when he was like a little youngling at 6 years old, and now he's out. But when you take away from when 2018, and there is no more relationship, there is no more sibling connective thing. There's none of that going on. And then if Michael wants to deal with her just because she's in his way. Like she's fucked with him enough. He's like, you know what? You're bothering me. I got to get you out of my fucking peripheral, and then I'll move on. If she goes on after this movie, and then he goes to another town, or he just goes to another like state, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I would be.
He stalks the Elrods.
Right. You know, right. The Elrod's like, your bologna sandwich sucks. You know, just do that whole thing. Like, I mean, it really would recreate that character, I guess, in a way that makes sense and would feel okay. I'll be okay with that.
I just wish they would stop trying to give Michael Myers a reason to do what he does.
Yeah.
Have a family, show the family, have Michael show up. Who gives a fuck why? They're here, he's there, he's trying to make his way through. You know, it almost makes me wonder, like, the lady who got her hair pulled and got the knife through the neck. Like, if she was an interesting character, you could have based a whole movie around her. Like,
that was a great kill, by the way, too. That freaking knife through the neck.
And make you scared for her. But, like, I go back to Halloween Returns, the script that for the movie that never was. They did it best, really. At the end of the movie, at the end of the script, Michael writes on the wall in blood before he disappears, no one in this town will ever be safe again.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, they put him on death row for what he did. They tried to kill him. He escaped, and he said, "Fuck you! I'm going to kill everybody." And I don't give a. There you go. The The bloodline's gone. All the shit's gone. Everybody, no one's safe. No one's fucking safe. Anybody can get it. Show up to the fucking buffet, and Michael will stab you in the throat. And he's not. You can take anybody interesting and put them in the path of Michael, and there's a fucking movie. That's all you need.
It's true, but I think it's important that they utilize the character of Michael Myers appropriately as well. And I know, again, I mean, people are gonna say, oh, you're just a purist and you want to, but I think it's not unfounded that when you make a sequel to the original 78 film, there are expectations that, they're gonna carry the character continuity over. And that was one of the things in this movie that I saw it again in moments, but I didn't see it overall. There's one thing I want to say here, if I could, and that is the closet scene in this movie. And it's so unfortunate that any sense of suspense or anticipation was destroyed in the marketing. Now, I understand from a business perspective and from a marketing perspective why they would use that shot and that clip 100%. But it's so unfortunate that they did, because any sense of suspense that they were trying to create in that scene, we all knew what was going to happen. We knew that Vicky, we not only knew that she was going to die, we knew when she was going to die, we knew where she was going to die, and we knew how she was going to die. We were just waiting for the moment to happen. And it's cool from a interesting sort of perspective that she opens the closet door and there, it's always cool to see that, but there was no suspense around it. There was no anticipation around it. Imagine if we had no idea. We had no idea. And when she's in the room saying, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing here?" We would think, is that, and then she goes, but like it's clear that when they were shooting the movie and the way they cut the film together, and remember, the producers and the director very rarely have a say of what the goes into the marketing. Okay. I'm sure, David Gordon Green, if he had his say, would be like, that pisses me off, because you could tell that they were trying to create some suspense because they held it off for quite a bit, right? They went through, but it was destroyed. Any sense, it was absolutely destroyed, because when it happened, I was like, there we go. You know what I mean? Like there was, and it's so unfortunate. Most of the movie, it felt like that in the second act, and the humor and such, and but anyway, I think it's that, because that was one of your benchmark moments. It was one of your benchmark moments that could have been spectacular. And there's things that I talked about before where I think maybe the light should have been off and have her turn on the light and there he is, or have the light be off and she's trying to find out what is, blocking the door, and you see his mask slowly emerge from the darkness, and then, oh my God, there he is. And there's so many ways they could have done it, and the way they did it is fine. But the way they did it doesn't work, because we saw it in the marketing and it just fell really flat to me. It's so unfortunate, because it could have been great.
Now, two things I really want to touch on before we end this thing is the score by Carpenter, because this to me was probably the best score since the first couple of movies, at least. What Carpenter brought to this, like, I thought, okay, it's Carpenter, but is it really Carpenter? Like, he's up there in age now. He hasn't really directed a great movie in a long time. So what's he going to bring to the score? And boy, did he. I mean, this score was, to me, just amazing, especially that scene where when he's chasing Alison. And I've never heard music like that before, even though it sounded similar, but it also sounded different, and it was just, I loved this. Cody, what did you think about the score in this? Because I haven't heard you talk too much about the score, except for in your spoiler review.
Yeah, I liked the score a lot. It was really good. There was enough different about it that it didn't just feel like kind of John Carpenter just kind of copied and pasted his shit from 1978. There was enough that was new, like the scene where he's chasing Allison. It had kind of that new age 80s throwback synth kind of feel to it, you know what I mean? So that was really good. I liked the update that he did to the 1978 score. I used pieces of it in some of my reviews where it was very kind of epic in some senses, where they have the same tones, but they kind of put a lot more orchestra behind it. So I like the score quite a bit.
Yeah. There's a point I was going to bring up about, there was a particular, I guess we can tie this into that opening, actually, because I've always wanted a pumpkin opening like we had in the first two movies. And I think this was one thing that really grabbed me in the movie, is right away we get this we're in Smiths Grove Sanitarium, and you got Aaron walking up to Myers, and it just starts getting more and more frantic, and then it gets louder, and then he says, he screams, "Say something," and then boom, we're into those opening credits, and I remember I was just gripping my chair like, wow, this is happening, this is insane. Jay, were you feeling the same way?
Fuck yes, my friend. I'm on the same boat and wavelength right now. It
was a tasty morsel.
Sartain, sardines, Sartain. I mean, like I said earlier, though, like that scared the shit out of me, because it's so delicate. I mean, it's like you're dealing with something, and you're like, this is fucking very precious to me, and like you're going, and you're like, say something. I was like, you better fucking not. Like I said, like don't fuck with this. Don't. I was like, it's like just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. Like, I felt like Ryan Gosling in Drive. Just shut your mouth. Like, just let it go. Like, don't do it. Because I didn't know what they were going to do. Like, but then as soon as it pops into and not just the opening. Like, the opening, I was like, I like the opening. I thought the opening was really cool. I know some people have a problem with it. Like, my favorite Halloween opening, even though I don't like the movie, is probably Halloween 5, when he's slicing the fucking pumpkin up and, like, it's bursting. And he's carving a jack-o'-lantern, and it's like vicious, and I'm like, damn. And he's good as shit, even though when he's slashing randomly, he can still carve a good jack-o'-lantern. But, plating, but I thought what was really cool was that not only is the music there, and it's kicking in full gear, and John Carpenter and Cody Carpenter is there, I guess it's his grandson, I'm not sure.
His son.
Or his son.
For the 5th goddamn time.
I forget. But yeah,
and Daniel Davies too, his godson.
Godson. Okay.
Uh-oh.
No.
It's all good.
No, Cody Carpenter. Sorry, Cody Carpenter is his son, but Daniel Davies is his godson.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, the family, they're doing this thing, and I like it. I know probably like the.
Uh-oh.
Very much.
Audio.
Sounds like Space Invaders from 1982.
Yeah.
But I will tell you what I like the best. And I remember I was singing with Mike and my brother, and I looked over like both ways. Like, holy shit, was the lettering. The lettering they brought back from 78. Like, it just looked.
Oh, the font. Oh, it's so
incredible.
good.
I'm like, I never got the opportunity to see the original Halloween and that lettering and just the way, the music's playing in the background and just lettering like coming at, it's just like, fuck yeah. I guess a lot of people, if they had seen the original Superman, the Man of Steel, or Christopher Reeve, like the way that the lettering and that music swells and fuck, dude, I was like, holy shit, we're in for a treat. And I can't wait to bite into that nougat. Yeah, it was great though for me. Yeah.
Let me say this because I feel like me especially focused a lot more on the negative. I think there is a very strong chance that if James Jude Courtney comes back for even just one more Halloween, he might overtake Nick Castle as the best Myers for me.
Oh yeah, that was my next thing I was wanting to talk about was James Jude Courtney.
That dude was fucking awesome. I think he was, to me, he was the perfect compromise between the Nick Castle supernatural regular old Joe Michael Myers and the brutality of the Rob Zombie Tyler Mane Myers. And I feel like in modern times you have to have that brutality side. You have to have the good kills. I don't think that you could get away with the way that it was in the 1978 where there was very little blood and it was very, by today's standards, very tame. I don't think you could get away with that. So I love the fact that they kind of found that perfect mix. I thought that dude was kick-ass.
That's my biggest problem with H2O. If you fuck up my Myers, you fuck up my whole movie. H2O has some. Hold on. H2O has some good things about it. It has some good things about it. But I'm such a Myers guy that if you mess that character up, it breaks my heart. This movie did the opposite of that. This gave me the best Myers I've seen since Nick Castle, and I was like giddy, like a little schoolboy the whole time. I was freaking out. He had the walk down. He had the sit up. That's another thing. H2O, when he did the sit up, oh my god, it looked like a freaking discount sit up. everything was just perfect about Myers in this movie. And I like, if James Jude Courtney doesn't do the next one, I'm going to be pretty sad. I'll say that. Dave, what were your thoughts on James Jude Courtney?
I thought he was fantastic, and I forget what my tweet was back in September, but I said something like, I forget what it was now, but I complimented him. I thought he was great, and I thought he was a nice balance between the two. And even though I am somebody that will always be a huge proponent of the theater of the mind and, you know, what you think you see, like I said earlier in this stream, to Cody's point, most of the kills in this movie were actually off screen, but we just see the end result, and the end results are so horrifying, but in a very classy way that it makes you feel eerie. It's eerie. You know, like I said, it's like walking in. I can only imagine what it must be like for a lot of the first responders to walk into a situation that is like that. And a lot of them need, therapy and PTSD. You know, they suffer, from PTSD and the way they did the kills, because, you think about it. Well, it was a violent movie, Halloween 2018, but it wasn't gratuitous. And that's what was so nice about this film, because it could have gone Friday the 13th. It could have gone Saw. It could have gone, Hostel. It could have been like, there was that one moment, of course, with the woman at the window. Her real name is Marion Singh. And it could have got, through the neck and, okay. But outside of that, you're not seeing like Dave getting ripped apart and blood spreading all over the wall. And it was just the end result, and it was enough. It was like, oh, I like this. Okay, I can get on board with that.
And if I can add one more thing about Myers in this movie, Myers did not feel like a product in this movie. He felt like an actual threat, like an actual human being. Not even though you might say he wasn't human, but in a lot of the other movies, I won't single any of them out, but I'll say Myers did feel like a product. Yeah. But this one, he felt like, and when he first puts on the mask, I didn't talk about this scene yet, but when he first puts on that mask, if he was a product, it would have felt like Superman putting on the cape for the first time. And yeah, here we go. But no, he had just committed a crime that was just atrocious and sad and horrible. And so if you remember the music cue that they used when he was putting on the mask, it was almost like there was a sadness in it, like, wow, this the mask symbolizes evil. And the human part is completely gone now when that mask comes on. And it was just an eerie feeling when that, it was almost scary when the mask was coming on. Like, this is pure evil. It really is.
One day they will join you in the sun, Kal-El. But I want to ask you guys really quick. What do you guys think? I mean, it is for Lee, Dave, Cody, Mike. I mean, you can answer it too. When he was holding the mask up, you're welcome. You're welcome, my son. When he was holding the mask up and Michael twitched, at the very beginning of the movie, right? And Michael twitched, he wasn't looking at anything behind him coming up, like he was fucking dead set on that brick wall, and I wonder what kind of cement they use. And he holds that mask up, and then he does this twitch thing. Does that add to the overall lore, at least in this film, that they were trying? Like, I know they didn't really quite say he's supernatural, but this, when he's holding the mask up and he like does that kind of weird thing with his eyes, his face, is it adding to the supernatural aspect of Michael Myers early on? Because he's not seeing it. And he's looking out the blind side of his eye anyway. You can fucking see it peripheral. Like,
I think it was just trying to kind of
mask up.
I think it was just trying to kind of add to that symbolic relationship between Myers and the mask. Like, they're both one. You can't have one without the other. I think that's all I took it as. I didn't really read too much into it past that.
Yeah, I agree with Cody. I think it's just, he turns his head, and obviously, if you want to get literal, it's so the audience can see that he still has the same fucked up eye.
Yeah.
That's really the real reason for it. But if you want to go sort of symbolically, it's he's aware of it. He's probably it's showing awareness. It's showing from a psychological perspective that when he clenches his hands a bit, when he kind of turns his head a little bit, it's showing that he's aware. He's there. It's like when the doctor says, well, what does Sartain say? He can hear you, or he knows you're there, or something to that effect. It was somebody said that, and it shows that even though he hasn't spoken in 40 years and he hasn't said anything,
he's aware
and
of everything. Yeah.
He's aware of everything, which is frightening. So there is this supernatural component to it, but I think people have to remember that, again, by Carpenter's own admission, the man who wrote the character said you were never supposed to know what he was. Is he human? Is he not? Is it the original intent of the character, which this is a sequel to? The later, by 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, he's like, he's way off the wagon. But in this, it's like there's that there's something off. It's like, is he or is he not? There's something weird. There's something there, and you can't put your finger on it, which is really interesting.
You remember the line when he's like, "Dude, be sure to not step over the line." And I think that just kind of added a little bit to the weight of Myers, because he felt like a really dangerous. Even before he had the mask on, they were setting up like, this is a very dangerous human being. You do not want to mess with at all.
100%.
Yeah, and then also, I guess to tie that into killing the child. Cody, what are your thoughts on that as far as Myers killing a child? Was that something that you were like, nah, I think they went too far? Or and just
absolutely not, because
go ahead.
I don't remember which review it was, but I had a bunch of people quoting me in the comments because I said something like something along the lines of "fuck it, kids need to die sometimes." You're like, it's to me, it takes the handcuffs off, because it's taboo. People don't like seeing it. It went too far. Fuck you. All it means is that Michael Myers is. It's there's no discrimination. You get in my way. If there's something that I need that you're standing between, you're fucking done. But it's not even really that scene where they killed that kid, but what gets set up for later on in the film.
There you go. That's what
I asked every single person that's seen this movie, and me and Holly were the only ones in the theater watching it, but we were both like damn near like not breathing during this whole sequence. Whenever he's walking through the house and you hear the infant crying, and he walks towards the crib, I was like, no.
Don't you do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, thank God.
Everybody was saying that.
Oh, shit. They did it to set that scene up.
I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys, I want to ask you guys on that point, and I'll ask people in the chat as well. Maybe I'm out to lunch here, but I've seen the movie twice. I saw it at TIFF, and then I saw it again when I was in LA. And when Michael comes around, when he's just killed the woman in curlers, and he's heading towards where the baby is, and you hear, now we know that actually it's come out that Codys herself can do a great baby sound, that kind of thing, right? And she actually did a sound effect for the movie, which I thought was kind of cool. However, there's a sound effect in there that if it is her and it's by accident, okay, but there's a sound effect when he's coming around the corner, just when you start to hear the baby, that to me, and maybe I'm fucking out to lunch, sounds identical to whatever sound effect they used in Halloween 2, 1981, when Michael is in the nursery area where the babies are. It's the same pitch, it's the same cadence, it's the same syllables, it's the same, it's whatever, it's some sort of like, something like that kind of sound. And I heard it, and I was like, oh, that's exactly, like, it felt exactly what you heard in Halloween 2, 1981. I don't know if anybody in the chat picked up on that, or if I'm fucking out to lunch. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but I would be very curious, just for, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I would be very curious to put the two up beside each other and see if I was onto something, because it sounds identical to me.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're bang on, because I think this movie takes something from every single one of the sequels that it deletes.
Yeah.
He
even said that. Even that, like, the face stomp was from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Yeah, there's even like a resurrection one.
Every single movie. The Halloween 2 is obvious; it's the ending, and possibly the infants crying. Halloween 3, we get the masks. Halloween 4, you get the whole subplot about the whole love triangle that goes on in the dance, where she gets pissed off at her boyfriend because he was fucking around with some other chick.
Yeah.
You get you get to Halloween 5. I forget what the hell that one was. In my spoiler review, I went over every single one. There's a resurrection van, H2O. That's obvious. I don't have to get into that. Halloween 6 has something too, but there's something like a direct call out or a scene that's borrowed or a line of dialogue from every single sequel in the entire franchise.
On to that point, do you guys feel that maybe it was a little too much? Because, you know, by his own admission, there's a clip of Carpenter online where he's asked, again, I'm paraphrasing, but the interviewer basically says, you know, so why did you get rid of all, like, you know, the sequels? And he says, like, have you seen the fucking sequels? He says that. Okay, so in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I get why they want to, you know, appease everybody and, you know, but you got to make a decision and you got to own it. And you got to say, listen, the reason why we're negating most of these sequels is because they're fucking garbage. Okay, that's why we're doing it. Now, you may like it, you may like this, you may like that, you may like that one, but overall, the timeline just went all over. We got to get rid of this. So why are we tipping our hat to anything? You could have spent that energy and time in the writing and in the directing and the making the movie. Maybe Aaron and Dana don't lose their life in a bathroom stall to tip your hat to Halloween 4 with the icebox outside and H2O, because maybe you have it at some seedy motel at nighttime and it's raining and you can capitalize on something else. Like maybe, you know, spend your time, utilize the original character, utilize that mood and that atmosphere, and give us something. If you want to tip your hat to Halloween 3 because it's the oddball and you got a couple of trick-or-treaters and some, you know, silver shamrock masks, fine. But there's so much stuff in there from the other films that I think, do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, and not only that, the chat kind of reminded me, but also the Halloween 6 was Dr. Sartain. That was their version of the Man in Black. Yeah. And you get to Halloween 5. I didn't really make this connection while I saw the scene, but everybody, like hundreds of comments have directed me to this, so it must have been intended. Halloween 5, the nod was that scene with the cops talking about their fucking sandwich.
And
so,
here, okay.
And that scene exactly is to your point. It's inserted. It has to only be inserted to be an homage. Hey, remember those stupid fucking cops with the Halloween or the Goosebumps music? But it, just like you said, and not only with the nods, but also with just kind of the point of the movie. If you're gonna have the balls to say our movie is deeming all 8 of those sequels completely irrelevant because we're gonna be way better than those, but you spend a third of your energy paying homage to all of it and retracing the same steps, going over some of the same story beats, making some of the same mistakes.
Yeah, and sorry, I just want to quickly say, you know, if that scene between the two cops, I actually didn't mind it. It just, for me, went on way too long. It was like, okay, I get it. Like, fuck off. I get it. You're becoming Friday the 13th cops now. But if that scene was a tip of the hat to the cops in 5, why? I think we all can agree, even those who like 5, that the cops, I mean, why? That's what you pick out of that fucking movie to tip your hat to? Why the hell would you do that?
Why not use the scythe than a kill or something like that?
Exactly. Use a laundry chute. Use laundry chute. But that
that would be great. Yeah, the laundry chute.
I don't think that. I generally don't think the cops was and I know a lot of people do think that. I don't think that the cops was the nod to that. I think the cops is a cool thing for Christopher Nelson, which I'm going to do 2 things here real quick. Dave, you mentioned earlier before how cool it was how they would you would see the aftermath of the scenes and what that added to the film. And I do think that it deserves, just before I don't get a chance to say it, a quick shout out to Christopher Nelson, who the FX team did.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's who that was. That cop in the car was Christopher Nelson.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that was partly, not him, and partly, if you get and I want to say to a lesser extent of a Tarantino movie. You know, when you get this movie and all this intense shit's going on, and then all of a sudden you step outside of it and you just get an interesting conversation between 2 people, and you just go, "What the fuck?" and it throws you off, but it's kind of cool to the scene. I think for those people who are looking for nods and looking for stuff like that, you might see that scene as that. For me, and the way I experienced it as a first-time watcher of the film, I thought I was just like, that was just kind of a funny, weird moment to tie these 2 characters who you've never seen before, except for, you know, showing up a time or 2 to tie them into the story. So I actually like that scene. But as far as the Easter eggs and stuff goes, I was actually really scared. Like when I was hearing, when they said, "Oh, we're gonna touch on all the movies. We're gonna have an Easter egg for every movie," I immediately was like, and especially being like all of us are, people who, you know, if you don't notice something, you're a piece of shit who doesn't know anything about fucking Halloween.
Yeah.
I immediately was like, oh shit. Like, I don't want to watch a Marvel movie where I have to go, I gotta pay attention to the fucking color wall because I'm not gonna realize it's fucking merman green like Aquaman and everybody's gonna call me a piece of shit.
Where's
like,
my notebook?
I didn't want that, you know? So, like, I was worried going into the movie, like, I'm going to be so worried about Easter eggs and catching shit, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. But for me, that was a nod to the movie. It was a plus to the movie because I was worried about it. But when I went and saw it and I watched it, I was so involved and on the edge of my seat and in suspense of what was going to happen next and where they were going to go. I was paying attention to shit. Like, I picked up on a couple things. I saw the gauze at the gas station from Halloween 4. Like, you can't help but pick up on some things. But not once in the entire movie. I was so enthralled with what was going on. Whether or not I loved everything that panned out, I was so enthralled with it and on the edge of my seat that I didn't even have time to, like, look for shit. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
right,
I was
right.
kind of the same way too when I watched it, especially the first time. Like I even like joked that like I didn't even eat my snacks. I was just so freaking into the movie that I didn't even care about my snacks.
Goddamn milk duds with that.
I wasted my fucking nachos like an idiot. So, but yeah, there's one other Easter egg that I had to mention that most people never noticed, and it was at the beginning when the say something scene and how the beat of that scene just kind of elevated. It's pretty much the same tempo as the stop it scene at the end of Halloween 3, if you think about it.
Yeah. Same.
Say something,
yeah.
and then it just goes right into the opening credits. So
Right.
I didn't blow anybody away with that.
What did you guys think of the humor overall? Because the humor was one of the areas of contention for me. And by the way, I agree with Mike. I'm not saying that the cop scene was a throwback to 5. I didn't pick up on that it was either. But
I didn't either.
Cody,
Yeah.
I've heard people say that it was. So my point was, if it actually was, why the fuck would they make that decision? But anyway, the humor overall, I felt took me out of it. And I think, you know, when Michael Myers is coming out of the closet, I think to have Julian say, "Oh shit," and run out of and then he, you know, quips to Dave as he goes down the stairs. I don't want any joking here. I want this. I want them to play it like Shakespeare. I want this to be fucking serious. I want this to be actually fucking happening, and I want to see that kid in the corner crying.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to say, like, I'm watching this going, "Fuck, this is fucking intense." You know what I'm saying? And I feel that it's not that humor can't work in horror movies. It's not that there wasn't a bit of humor in the original film, but it was moment humor. It was just kind of like, you know, an off the cuff sort of thing. It wasn't a scene that was dragged out for a few minutes of, you know, quipping back and forth about weed and, you know, I know what it is. And you got the kid, you know, clipping his toenails, which in and of itself is humor because why have him doing that? He could have been doing anything. So, you know, it's all this kind of stuff that it took me out of it. And I feel that, you know, you got to make up your mind of what kind of movie you want to be. And it's okay to have little things here and there, but the humor just took me out of it completely. I don't know.
For me, the humor wasn't a big issue because I didn't think there was too much of it. I do have a problem with that one scene that you're talking about, where the closet scene. And I think they had a golden opportunity, too, because in the trailers, everybody was saying, "Oh, that's a dream. There's no way that's real." And sure enough, it wasn't. And sure enough, it wasn't a dream. It actually was real. So they had this golden opportunity to make that scene terrifying. And instead, they threw in way too much humor with the kid, which I did like that kid before that scene, but they should have stopped the humor right there. Made the scene really serious, build up the tension up to that closet, and then gave us a kill that was just completely brutal. That's the one problem I have with the comedy. Other than that, though, like I hear a lot of complaints about the dad. I honestly didn't have a problem. Was he funny?
Oh,
no, he
God.
wasn't funny. Hold on, let me finish. He wasn't funny.
Lee.
No, let me explain.
Lee.
Let me explain.
Don't go there, Lee.
He wasn't funny. I will say that. I didn't really laugh, but he didn't bother me. It was quick. It was in and out. And I think when you have a movie this serious, you do have to break up the tension a little bit here and there.
Look, bring the fucking metal claw down. Take that character out of the movie. The movie is exactly the fucking same. Not only is he absolutely useless as a character, no line of dialogue does he have.
Peanut butter penis.
One, does it not land the humor? One, but two, you could have reinforced the character of Judy Greer by having her be just as broken and be a single mom, just like Jamie Lee Curtis, and then you get to the end of the movie, the motherfucker dies, and no one gives a shit.
No one gives a
asks where
fuck.
he's at, no one looks for him. Nothing. No one fucking cares.
That's great.
I need to echo this because Cody is bang on. You have this look. Most of the humor, I want to say this for the people in the chat room as well. Most of the humor in the movie is actually genuinely funny. It's funny. It's
the
just
wrong movie.
It's just doesn't exactly. It feels like it's just in the wrong film. Having said that, you got Ray, who's a useless character. He's a completely I got peanut butter on my penis. As soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, he's this kind of guy. And as Cody said, I mentioned this in my review as well. I said that if you remove Ray from the movie, you lose nothing. If this really is, as Jamie Lee Curtis is preaching ad nauseum to that's a whole other thing, that this is about trauma. It's about trauma. You know, the generational pass down. Well, if it is, which I don't think that was the original intent. I think that's just what Curtis was able to find and help her market the movie. It's about trauma, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think it goes as deep as she's making it seem. But that being said, if Judy Greer was a single mom to Alison, you remove Ray from the picture, then, as Cody said, you then have this dynamic that can sort of evolve organically between the three women, getting Ray out of there, having her say stupid shit like, Mom, the world's a nice place and it's full of love. And like, fuck off. That was written in there for no other reason than to be funny, but to be kind of serious funny. And it's like, this girl would not, like, she's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Like, come on, right? Have her not like Jamie Lee Curtis, have her a bit naive, have her maybe think that her mom is a bit of a lunatic, okay, but have her a single mom, then you make her character stronger, because then you can build the relationship between Alison and her a bit more, and you can show that dynamic a bit more without this useless character of Ray, who, yeah, it's funny, but you remove him from the movie, you lose nothing. You lose literally nothing. Anyway, that's just my...
I didn't mind Judy Greer. I'm saying that. I didn't mind her at all. I'm going to say it right now.
She's nice to look at, but come on.
All right, let me explain myself with Judy Greer, because I know a lot of people don't like her, but I think she had this relationship with her mother when she was a child where she was pretty much forced against her will to, you know, basically go to survival school. You know, that's what she was doing. So, and alongside that, she had a mother that was cold to her, that really wasn't, you know, a great mother. So I think she had such a problem with Laurie Strode that once she separated from her, she kind of became a different person, and she avoided that side of her life up until the end of the movie. And I thought she played that pretty well, actually, the whole way. And there's that one scene, I know Cody has a problem with this scene, where she seems kind of like, whatever, you know, I don't really care. And I think that was an intentional choice on her part to play that scene. I think she was pushing away those emotions. I think that's what she was doing. So she tried to play it emotionless. So that in the end, when she does say, "Gotcha, Michael," then it kind of meant a little bit more. So for that, I know I'm alone in here probably, but I didn't have a problem with Judy Greer. And I expected to hate her, actually, going into this movie. She surprised me. I actually did not mind her. So,
did you, Lee, somebody who really liked her character? And again, folks, I mean, this is not an attack on Judy Greer. I think she's great. But in terms of her character, because you really enjoyed her character and you were okay with it, what about that scene outside of the restaurant when she's describing,
That's what I was talking about. That was the scene I was talking about. Yep.
Okay, well, when she's describing the flashback, I can't help but feel that maybe it plays to you like she's suppressing emotions.
Yes, that's exactly the way I looked at it.
Well, to me, it plays very wooden.
Yeah.
And like she's reading off the...
I thought that was a choice. Yeah, I thought she went with wooden.
Yes. It feels like she's reading off a teleprompter. It feels like she's reading off a teleprompter, and it doesn't feel organic or natural at all. I do want to say this. If we have to justify in our own minds certain things out of certain other things, well, this is probably what it meant, or that's not good storytelling, right? It should be, there are certain things that you leave ambiguous, that you leave up to the audience, that you leave them to interpret. But if we have to justify an entire character arc, you know, interpret, well, she was probably feeling this. Well, she might have been feeling this because of she was probably feeling... In my opinion, there's a bit of an issue with the storytelling of this character, but that's just me. I think she's a fine actress.
Yep.
She's pretty. There's nothing wrong with her. But I think her character could have been made stronger if you had removed her husband, because then she wouldn't be playing this. Because she played to me like she has this geeky, got peanut butter on my penis husband, so she's got to play like a character that would have a husband like that. And I think if you remove him from the movie, you actually can make her a bit stronger.
I agree with that. Go ahead, Mike. What did you guys think of Judy Greer?
I got to defend Ray really quick. And I know you don't want it. No one wants it. I got.
I love Mike's face.
I'm ready for it.
Whether it worked out or not, and I'm not saying it worked out because clearly it didn't land for people. But I feel like the purpose. I'm trying to explain this without going too personal here, but I feel like the purpose of Ray is to show he's that person. He's outside of the family. Like, he's never dealt with any of this stuff before. All this stuff has happened. It's been like this thing that's been between this family, and then there's Ray. He's supposed to be the view of the person who's on the outside of that. Like, he married into this family. So, like, the scene where Jamie, shows up in their house and she's like, bang, you're fucking dead. You're all pieces of shit. I fucking told you you're going to die. Ha. Ray's like, get the fuck out of my... get the fuck out of my house, I can protect my family. I don't need your crazy...
Hey, the way that you just said that is about 30 times more convincing than the way that he says it.
What he's supposed to be is okay, he's supposed to be the normal person inserted into this batshit fucking crazy family. So in a way, he's supposed to be the audience's eyes, if Michael Myers and all this shit happened over here, the character, the George Clooney lookalike from H2O. You know what I'm talking about, Adam.
But is he though, Mike? Is he really the audience? Because he's seen what the hell was his name from that movie?
I really do. I agree with Mike. I think he is.
Yeah, I think he's too self-aware. The audience is too self-aware of his idiocy. And
he even confronts Laurie Strode. He's like, "Hey, stop! Don't bring this shit into my house." And I actually like that scene with him.
He confronts her in a goofy way, though.
The dinner.
Yeah,
Everybody else.
Look, I mean, even
I knew this was going to happen.
Intimidated. Even Laurie Strode isn't intimidated by him in the scene. She's like, "Back the fuck off." Well, she's the only person, and the audience is laughing with her.
He's like, you're storing fucking Frankenbeanies in your goddamn basement for some guy who's in a mental institution. You're fucking nuts. I want to raise a normal goddamn house here. So to him, I imagine myself in that situation, and I'm like, oh my god, your crazy fucking mom's here again, and I just want to watch the fucking Packers game. I got Michael Myers out. Fuck me in the ass. Who gives a shit?
Well, he does know jujitsu or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, that was a reference to Resurrection.
I thought that was actually
Here's my little hot piece on it, and it's gonna be small because you guys.
Jay has a small hot piece,
a small one, guys. I mean, just fucking. I don't know what that's.
Oh, I thought you said penis. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, that's great. Good interjection. CNN Crossfire. So what I was gonna say is, real quick.
This is Alex Wolf.
on his character, at least, is that. He's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. As far as what I'm looking at, though, as far as a Halloween movie, a 2018 Halloween movie, it's the resurgence. It's a thing. It's supposed to be adding him in. It doesn't throw it away as far as the movie itself. It's not gonna take me out of it and be like, oh, this movie fucking blows asshole now. It's just kind of can I fit this square peg in this round hole? Can I fucking do it? Nope, it don't fit. But I'm gonna keep trying it, and I'm gonna be forcing that in there. But he's not the worst thing.
He's not.
The kid, the toenail clipper. I didn't mind it. I mean, it was.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was great. I liked it.
Yeah,
But you're right.
But
when the killing starts, the comedy stops.
I feel like it came out really quick. Again. This movie does have a lot of out of left field kind of moments. Shit.
Oh yeah, it does.
That's happening now. Or damn, that's the route we're going now. Or damn, the whole tone of the movie changed, and now we're going down this route. I still enjoyed it. I still had a good time watching it.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, I thought it was a good movie, but I have to look at it from a certain point of view.
Right.
Right.
You know, I got to look at it. Okay, it's this type of movie. It doesn't necessarily feel like a Halloween movie to me. It feels like, I mean, it does, and it doesn't. So
Right.
so it feels like a modern. You remove Michael and Laurie from the movie, and you add another character in there, another killer in there. I know the music is a huge, part of the identity as well, but I think you know what I'm trying to say, and it's pretty interchangeable. Whereas the identity of the original Halloween, the way it was shot and the pacing and the camera angles, is part of the character as well. And I'm not saying you carbon copy the original. That's not what I'm saying. But there are certain things I was looking for that I didn't see that I think actually would have. You keep the kills, keep the fucking kid in this humor if you want to do that. But if they had slowed the pace down just a little bit, not to a crawl, but just a little bit, and given us more time to have an emotional connection to the town again. I was wanting to see those establishing shots. I wanted to feel that autumn. Maybe you remove the scene of the podcasters at the gravesite with Judith and you replace it with Laurie at the gravesite of Bob and Annie and Linda, right? And maybe you still show Judith's grave, but Laurie doesn't go over to it because in this new movie, she's not her sister. So there'd be no reason for her to do that. But maybe as she's leaving the graveyard, she walks by and the camera's following her, and then she walks out of frame and there's Judith Stone. And we're like, there's Judith. So they're all buried in the same sort of cemetery. But that moment, to have that emotional connection, to see her have that emotional connection, just little things like slow that pace down a bit and just get us a little more. There's not a lot of connection to what came before it. And you could have done that without it making seem like this is Halloween 1978 2.0. You could have done that to just give us a little more of that connection.
Right, and I agree with you, and I think that is exactly what they should have done in those scenes specifically that you're talking about. The whole thing with Judith Myers and having the gravestone and Michael just kind of leaning, from the tree. I mean, it's a cool scene. It looks like a great poster.
Yeah.
And I'm into it in a way, but as watching it, like as the movie unfolds, it kind of feels.
They didn't make any decisions.
Yeah, well, it felt like I just like
about
looked at.
those things.
Yeah, it felt like a Hot Topics thing, like or Spencer. Oh, God, they made a new fucking thing. I don't know. Like it's cool. Like he's in the graveyard again, looking at Judith's. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, as far as again, and I know what you're talking about, Dave, and I agree with you as far as like having those little subtle things, like subtle little tiny things in the film that might have made it overall a better film as for you.
Well, it's just that sort of feeling. Like, imagine that scene that cuts from the kitchen to Alison and her friends, right? Like, we go from the kitchen where she's like, "Oh, Mom, what the fuck?" And it cuts, I think it cuts anyway, right to Alison is already walking with Vicky and Dave. Imagine if Vicky and Dave weren't there yet. And it cuts to her, she's out on the street, and you don't have to take a lot of time, but she's walking, and, the wind begins to blow. She looks around, she sees some Halloween decorations. Maybe there's like, a neighbor that says, "Hi, Allison," and she goes, "Hi, Mr. Johnson." And what does that do for the viewer? It tells us, oh, there's a connection, it's a small town, that small town vibe. Everybody knows everybody. Hi, neighbor kind of thing, right? Maybe she even says hi to the woman that gets killed, through the neck or something, right? There's this connection there. There's just a moment where she's looking around and there's that fall kind of there. And we as the viewer can feel it. We can feel Haddonfield again. We can feel autumn again. And then as quickly as that comes in, Vicky and Dave come around the corner, and then you play it out the same way, right? I wanted to feel that connection to the town that I didn't feel.
You didn't feel
I
it.
didn't feel.
I can understand that, and I can get that. Again, I mean, there are subtle things they could have done differently with the film. I think overall would have been 100 times better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And some people might think it's nitpicking.
People have. Cody's got his opinion on what we could do. You have yours, and Lee and Mike and myself, and I'm sure the other viewers have what they would have done differently. But as far as the comedy part of it, again, I just want to go back. I want to go back. Whatever. I just want to go back to, and I wish I knew the kid's name. I mean, because again, he did do a good job as far as like I've never seen.
He was great.
Yeah, I've never seen him before. Never heard of him in my life.
Yep.
And as far as that scene goes, to me, he was kind of like the Reggie the Reckless, in Friday 5. Like he had this like energy or charisma about him that kind of hey, I like this kid. I don't know why I like this kid, but he's kind of funny. But it does, in some way, and I agree for sure. Just like the dad and things, it comes out of left field. It's like fucking slapping you in the face and like, shit, who's hitting me today? Like, what's going on? And you're like, well, he's funny and he's cute and it's a good scene, but like, is this the like? It does change some way the tone in that specific scene because you're building up for this moment, you know, and like everybody's waiting for this moment to happen, and we know it's gonna happen. And then you have this interjection, and this comedy scene plays out, which we all love. We all think it's really funny. The kid's great.
It's funny. Yep.
But it's like, okay, so now I'm not as prepared, and I'm wearing clothes to a swimming party.
Right. And what sucks, Jay, to your point, because you're bang on, is because you know what's coming, because they destroyed the climax of that scene in the marketing, they should have gotten rid of the humor or at least really toned it down so they could build, at least we could have some sort of suspense there, right? But now the scene, we know what's going to happen, and the scene is like this mishmash of humor. So at the end, you're like, cool, he came out of the closet. I was waiting for that. You know, but there's no real sort of, like, you're bang on.
In my mind, when I watched that, I'm like, when I watched like the trailer scene or the closet scene, I'm thinking the same thing. But I guess on my level, it's just such a personal thing. I'm thinking, it's almost like I'm the only one that knows that's going to happen, even though that's complete bullshit and it's not the truth. But when the closet scene happened, I'm like, okay, I bet that was amazing for everybody who didn't watch the fucking trailer. Now on to what's next.
Now on to what's next.
I like when I saw the Andy Manischek chase scene or the scene where Will Patton hits him with his car. Those scenes were so fucking crazy for me. And I guess, you know, and so that I don't go on too long with what I'm trying to say, my whole summation for kind of this whole live stream and for the movie in general is that I think it sounds like, honestly, even though we all have different opinions about the movie, it sounds like we all saw the same thing. Yeah. It's just how you process it and how you feel about it. Mm-hmm. And for me, over years and years and years of watching the shitty sequels and loving what sucks about them, but knowing what sucks about them at the same time, for me, this movie, they got Michael right. Like, it's so important that none of us can sit here and say James Jude Courtney sucked, or that Michael didn't move right, or the kills weren't good, or any of that stuff is good. The main fucking ingredient was right. They got it right, and it's so hard to do. Look how many other people fucked it up. Yep. They got the mask right. Look how many other people fucked that up. They got the way he moves. They got Michael right. Top to bottom, they got Michael right. Jamie, despite how we all feel about her fate, she was better than I think a lot of people even imagine.
She was fan-fucking-tastic.
Yep. Yeah. You could have used that, and you could have done this stereotypical H2O Jamie, and it would have passed. But when that one moment where she screams and she's doing the fucking hotel shots, you're like, oh. Yeah. I think that almost a lot had that moment of, oh, you just surpassed how crazy I thought you were going to do with this. And then the dinner scene where she goes crazy. And I think all the really important shit they got right. So for me, I'm just watching that, and I'm thankful, and I'm just really fucking impressed with the moments that I really loved, because so many of these movies could have been so great if it weren't for their fatal flaws. And you know, the story, the one fatal flaw we all agree about almost with Dr. Sartain, it was a fucked up thing that most people agree was fucked up and a bad writing maybe, but it's a guy that we just brought in, so yeah. It's not really damning the franchise. You know, they didn't cut a fucking leg off. They blew off some fingers. You know what I mean?
And as quickly as it came in, they abandoned it. So, I mean...
Yeah. But
everything...
The pillars, they fucking nailed. And so many movies have fucked that up for us that I'm just so pleased and happy with this movie at the end of the day.
I hear what you're saying. I think exactly what you're saying, Mike, is exactly why the things that I didn't like were so extremely frustrating for me, because they nailed the most important things that have apparently been so fucking difficult for this franchise to get right for so many years that it baffled me, the things that they fucked up. It was like, how do you screw that up? You got the hard part right, but you screw up the easy shit. It was almost like they were trying to make a sandwich, and they went to Italy and got the perfect, perfect deli meat, and they went to this place and got the most, amazing cheese that's made by hand, and they made the sauce and everything, but then they realized the only bread they had left is the 2 end pieces that somebody fucking left out last night. So they put it together, and it's like, dude, you got all this shit right, but how do you fuck up the bread? You know what I mean?
Well, I think
that's why it was...
I think Mike kind of set us up for what I wanted to get everybody's summation of what this movie was, and Mike pretty much led us right into that. Cody gave his thoughts, and I'm more on the side of Mike with this. They not just got, but they nailed the big things, and maybe it's just because I'm like a fanatic of the franchise. Maybe it's because Mike and Jay are fanatics, but fanatics, there's certain things about this franchise that we don't want screwed up, and it seems like they've always screwed up a little bit in every sequel. This movie in particular, the big things, the meat and potatoes, they not just nailed, but they knocked out of the park for me. And what Cody's saying about the smaller things that they did screw up, they could have wrote a few things in there to fix those things. For me, it wasn't the biggest issue. Like Sartain, to me, was an interesting character. Did they nail him? No. I think they could have went a different route, and it would have been. But still, at the end of the day, I mean, they got my Myers boy right, just like I wanted. They got Laurie Strode perfectly right. They gave me an interesting third act. And it could have been a better movie, yes, but it's my number one movie of the year for that reason. They freaking nailed what I wanted about this movie. And I will say, I did not expect this movie to top my end of year list. I was realistic about it. I thought this was going to be my fun little Halloween movie. I'll put it in the corner, I'll tuck it away, and then it'll probably be like number 5 or number 6 on my list. It topped my list for the year because of the risks that it took and because of how badass the things I wanted ended up being. Jay, what's your final summation of this?
I mean, I love the fucking movie. I don't think the movie is a 10 by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever.
Yeah.
We gave our ranking on it. I walked out of the theater. I felt satisfied, which I can't say that many of the women that I've been with will ever say the same. Facts. That's the facts.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you were there. Shit. But anyway, but overall, I walked out feeling that I had got, like Mike said, and Cody is talking about, and I think everybody will agree that James U. Courtney did a phenomenal,
amazing.
Like he did amazing with what he had.
Yep.
He was able, again, and you guys have already said this, to blend in two different genres, two very different genres, with John Carpenter's 1978, the thriller mystique kind of approach that John Carpenter had, with the more violent, in-your-face Rob Zombie approach, and have those two blended together and make Captain fucking Planet happen in our faces with Michael Myers. And I think that James U. Courtney was the perfect vehicle to do that. I mean, there were things that as I watched it, I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. There were some moments in the film that I felt that were, as Dave had said, was dragged out to a point where there was no payoff at the end. And then there were some moments that were dragged out too far. But overall, I did have fun watching it. And the music was spot on. The actors were great. The actresses were great. I mean, I can't wait. As far as like the movie itself, as a Michael Myers movie, I mean, I was thrilled with it. I thought, fuck yes. I felt like Bill and Ted when they see the goddamn phone booth for the first time travel through time and it drops into the Circle K. I'm like, oh. Like mouth when you're walking out. It was all that shit. But I think also when I walked out of it, I'm like, people are really gonna like this movie. I think overall, like I think it's gonna make money. And Dave, I know you're saying like the marketplace is or as far as the box office is a hard thing to judge. With movies being good or great, but as Lee asked earlier, does this open the floodgate up for the other sequel or the other iconic films to be remade? And absolutely, it does. And I think this movie was a success enough. It was a home run enough to where we can get a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or a great Hellraiser movie to come back. So overall, yeah, man, like I love this. I love the fuck out of this movie, and I hope the thing keeps going. I don't want Jamie Lee Curtis to be a part of it. I know, fuck me in the ass. I mean,
been there, done that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Like I want Michael Myers, and I want more Michael Myers. I would rather just go a different route and see where we get to go from there. So,
Dave, let's hear your summation.
Well, my general consensus, I agree with Cody. I think what what is so frustrating about this for me on certain levels is, like Cody said, they got a lot of the very important things right. And there may be some adjustments I would have made in certain areas, but Michael was great, and Laurie was great. And there's certain scenes where I'm like, I like this. I like what you're doing here. I like, that it makes all the other things that they didn't get right or that they messed up on, in my opinion, all the more frustrating. So I see this movie. It's a good movie. When I look at it as a modern day horror movie, that was fun. Yeah. But the analogy I used on my review was this. It's like you go home. And you've gone back home to see your old friends you went to college with, old friends you went to high school with, and it feels good. You're there and you spend the weekend reminiscing, sharing some old laughs, and it's a lot of fun. But because so much time has gone by, some very important people, very important friends, were unable to make it for whatever reason. Maybe they passed away. Maybe they live on the other side of the world. Maybe they just couldn't do it because of whatever. And you notice their absence. Even though you've had a good time and it's a fun weekend and you've had fun reminiscing, you notice their absence. And when you leave and you go home, you've had a good time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't necessarily feel the need to go and revisit it again because those important people are not going to be there. You're worried that they may not be there again. And I think that's kind of how I feel about the movie, is that there's certain things I was looking for as a direct sequel to John Carpenter's that was not there, and it makes it frustrating. But it's a good movie for what it is. It's a good modern day horror movie, and if I look at it like that, it's fun. I had a good time. But is it a great Halloween movie? I'm not so sure. I think we all need to it's only been out a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, I first saw it at TIFF, but that was only like, a month and a half ago. I think it definitely, passion was put into it. My hat goes off to David Gordon Green and to, Blumhouse, Universal, everybody involved. They definitely took themselves seriously. They wanted to deliver something really good. You can see it there. It's a well-made movie, and it's good. But I think it's one of the better Halloween sequels. Absolutely. But I don't know if I would rank it Halloween 1978, Halloween 2018. I still feel it's probably third or fourth for me behind Halloween 2, 1981. That still feels like the proper sequel, even though I think 2 is far inferior to the original. It feels more organic.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the nostalgia talking. Maybe it's because it picks up immediately where the first one leaves off. So it feels like it's one movie with 2 separate parts. But I think we need to sort of see how we feel this time next year. See how we feel 3 or 4 years from now. Where is this going to fall? So it's a good movie for what it is, but I think it's a good movie that could have been great.
Yeah, and I'm realistic here. I'm still on that high. This movie's still relatively new, and I've even told myself, hey, in a year from now, will I feel a little bit different? And it's possible. Of course, it's possible. It might. Right now, I have it.
If you do, you better not fucking admit to it.
Well, I will say this: it's number
Stick
2.
to your guns.
This movie.
Well, he likes Halloween 2. What the fuck does he know?
This movie trumped Halloween 4 after 30 years for me. Halloween 4 for 30 years has been my number 2. This beat it for me right now. Could Halloween 4 jump back up to number 2? Yes, it totally could. There are things about Halloween 4 that I that just really knock my socks off still when I watch it. So of course it could jump back up. But is this one gonna fall from 3? Maybe not. I mean, I still feel that way about it. But you guys all made some great points in this thing. I really enjoyed doing this.
Do you guys feel that?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say one last thing. Where do you guys right now, this very moment, are you still, like, if you were to watch Halloween 1978, would you feel yourself leaning towards going to 1981 or 2018 as a direct follow-up right now? I know it's too early to tell, but for fun.
81.
I think 81 does feel more organic. You have a lot of the same crew members, but it's hard for me because I can watch this movie after the first movie and feel like, part 1 and part 2. Does it feel like the same cinematography wise? No, of course not. But this is 40 years later. These characters would be different 40 years from now. This is a different climate 40 years later. So it's not going to feel like Halloween 2. So it's a tough question to answer for me.
I find this movie far more. Fucking people are gonna hate this. I find this movie far more entertaining and easy to watch than I find 1981's Halloween 2 to watch.
I agree.
But do feel like 1981 Halloween 2 feels more organic as a follow-up for sure. I mean, it just, it is. It's a time. It's a fucking... That had a John Carpenter feel to it. For as much as I love about this movie, there's, apart from the score, there's no John Carpenter to it. No,
I agree.
The score is so great because John Carpenter has been focused on music. Like, the score, that's been his life lately. It's not been movies. It's been music. He's been touring. He's been making the anthology albums. He's been doing all that. So really, like, his craft lately has been music, so he fucking blew the score out of the park.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I think that's why. But, Halloween 3 felt more John Carpenter than this movie did.
Yeah, of course.
Just on pure vibes,
Okay, what? Sorry. Oh, Jay, I'll let Jay answer. Sorry, I don't mean to keep hogging, but there's just a couple of things I've always wanted to know your guys' thoughts on, so I want to quickly say it.
Walk to Escape from L.A. Oh, shit. I mean, oh, yeah.
I know for a fact you like Escape from L.A. better. Don't you put on a show for these people? God damn it.
I like New
Did
York.
fucking Kurt Russell ride a wave in that movie?
I like Donald Pleasance. He was in New York. As far as the shit. That's a loaded question. What the fuck?
Well, you can say it's too early to tell. You can just say, no, man, it's fucking too early to tell.
I think I'm going to say what Mike's going to say. I like the 1981 Halloween 2. I really do. I think it's an underappreciated sequel. I mean, even though it's appreciated, I feel like it's still underappreciated by a lot of people. I think that people watch it and they skip over it and they're like, oh, well, I can't wait to get to Halloween 4 or some shit. Like, I mean, Halloween 2, you got to go through it. Halloween 2018 does feel fresh and new, and it has that vibe that you were talking about. Like, it's a modern day horror movie, and it does have the people, it gets the people going, whatever that reason is. But the 81 version, I mean, Halloween 81 and Halloween 78 could have been one movie. Like, it literally could have been one movie. But
well, that's a great segue into the one last thing, Lee. I promise. I've always wanted to know your guys' thoughts on this. Is, do you feel that maybe, even though they did negate Halloween 2, and they did it for the reasons because they don't want to tie Michael and Laurie as brother and sister, we understand that, and maybe they thought, well, how the hell do we bring him back from the fire? But I think that was secondary. I think they probably could have figured that out in some weird way. I think it had to do with the arc of them being related. But do you think that maybe if they hadn't negated 2, and this was a sequel to 2, so it was like 1, 2, and then this one 40 years later, because as you said, that first one is basically, one movie. Do you think that would have helped some people feel better about where Laurie is 40 years later? Because some people, I hear thinking, I mean, would she really be this crazy after that? Just 3 people. I mean, not to say that wouldn't have been crazy, but do you think that maybe it would have helped some people feel a little more kind of like, whoa, fuck, I can really understand her character now, because she not just saw Bob, Linda, and Annie. She went through, through that whole fucking thing in the hospital. Because sometimes people forget that in this new movie, that whole massacre in the hospital never happened.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say absolutely, because again, I think that Halloween 1 and 2. Even though they're separate movies and they have their own fans around both, it's one movie to me. And Laurie is going through all this in one night. I mean, she gets rescued from almost being butchered by some crazy guy in a mask for whatever reason, survives it, is taken to a hospital. This motherfucker is alive, stalking through houses looking for candy corn that trick-or-treaters left, and then is going to the hospital afterwards to stalk her again. Like he's going to continue the search and the possibility of killing her. So she's going through all this in one moment, or at least in one night. Yeah, I mean, I think that if they had, it lends itself to her being fucking Duck Dynasty crazy in 2018 without the beard.
Like, it doesn't bother me because I don't like the brother-sister story thing anyway, but I see a lot of people saying they would have, I see other people saying they could have bought where she is now more if they understood that,
Right.
if they were able to, you know.
I actually don't agree with that though, because it's like, you can get you can get cheated on, and it can completely change the
100%.
trajectory of your life.
100%. Yep.
Who you are. You can have PTSD over that, and I'm not even making fun of that. Like, you can. It's fucking hard.
Yep.
It's a shitty thing. You can have a death in your family. It's not hard for me to make the stretch that fucking your friends are murdered. By a serial killer. And the two kids that you're responsible for are almost murdered, and you literally stab someone. You had to stab someone to survive your life. That would give anybody PTSD in the real world.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. It's traumatic enough, just the events of the first one.
But
I'm with you guys as well.
I think
the second one, maybe, but if you can tap into that, the cerebralness of that, the true trauma of that, and I think she does an amazing job of that in this movie.
She does.
Then yeah, I think it's enough.
Go ahead, Cody.
It would have been extremely easier for them to just dial back the crazy a couple of notches than to explain so many of the plot threads left over from Halloween 2, like him being shot in the eyes, him being burned, Loomis being blown up. Then you have to kind of re-explain how they're not brother and sister when Loomis and the nurse clearly said that they were. Like, there's way more work to be had trying to include Halloween 2 than to just simply dial back the psycho a little bit in Laurie Strode. And I do think it didn't bug me as much the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, it is a little bit, again, not a huge criticism, but it is a little bit exaggerated how fucked up she is from this one night. I think if they'd have just dialed it back a little bit, that's why I just tip the scale slightly more towards H2O Laurie, and I think it'd be perfect.
One of the reasons I agree with what Cody said, but I think one of the reasons how I justified that was what happened to Laurie in 1978 was the catalyst that set the course for her 40 years of trauma. So even though what happened to her 40 years ago was horrific, there's been a multiple of things that have happened to her in the years since that have also been horrific. Failed relationships, her child being taken away. Maybe she was an alcoholic at one point, we don't know. Maybe she was into drugs at one point, we don't know. So there's no doubt that going back 40 years, that was the catalyst that set this path to where she is now. So what we see of her 40 years later is this woman that has, yes, there's Michael Myers and, the death of her friends, but that's all the shit that caused up to this point that they don't necessarily talk about in the movie. But I do agree with what you're saying.
Well, guys, we are like at 3 hours now, which is pretty cool for HallowStream 3. First off, I just want to thank my guests to have you guys to have a conversation with about this little movie called Halloween. I think is just the most. I would have never dared that I could actually make this happen, and I appreciate you guys, giving up your time to talk to me about this movie that has so many fans, and it's been a ride. I mean, three times we've done this now, and it's been such a ride, so I really appreciate it. Is this the last one? Is there going to be a sequel? It could happen again, yeah.
As soon as they announce the next movie, we'll be back.
HallowStream 4, the return.
Revenge of the Lead.
Yeah.
Going on the Revenge of the Lead.
I think the fans would want another HallowStream. So I would probably push for another one if we get sequel news or something like that. I would love it. But hey, I just wanted to thank you guys. And before we go, I'll ask you, like I always do, Dave, what's on tap for the future?
Oh well, yeah, okay. Well, tomorrow night, I'm actually going to have a live stream on my channel with Tony Michael. I don't know if anybody remembers Tony Michael. He was doing a lot of Halloween content about 6 months or so ago. He's a professional photographer from Atlanta, Georgia. And then his photography business got really busy, so he's been kind of quiet for a few months. But he's a big fan, and he was doing some great content in regards to Halloween a little while ago. So we've decided to kind of do a once a week to start to see how it pans out, kind of a live show where we just talk movies. And tomorrow night we'll be talking horror, and I'm sure Halloween will come up. But our first episode is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern on my channel. And then, and then what else? In terms of my channel, I don't know. I mean, I got some things brewing. I got some things coming up. So let's just leave it there. I could go on, but.
And let me just respond to somebody in the chat real quick. Grave Warmer. He said we haven't responded to the chat all night. When you try to put together a stream and you have an outline of what you want to talk about, you want to get a flow going. There are streams where they're just strictly chat oriented, and all we'll do in this stream is talk. We'll field the chat, and I like those streams. I do those streams sometimes. But when you are putting a show together like this and you have 400 people watching, I didn't intend for this to be where I just field chat questions. This is not that type of stream. This is where we talk about topics about the new Halloween movie. So I mean no disrespect to the chat at all. I mean, I've actually been responding to a few of you guys in the chat, but don't take it personally if I don't answer every question from 400 people in the chat. So I felt like I just needed to address that. Anyway, Mike and Jay, what do you guys got on tap?
First off, let me just say really quick that's what you just said is totally right. For anybody, and I actually can't see the chat at all right now, but I cannot imagine what it's like to try to feel what's going on there. Plus us four, because I feel like the five of us could go fucking for hours and hours and hours into the fucking 2-day territory on the movie. For you trying to moderate this and doing what you're doing and juggling all that shit, we were talking about this before we did it. It was it's so easy for us. We sit here and you ask us a question about Halloween and we answer it. Lee has a hard job moderating and trying to do all this shit. So first off, and I'm not trying to kiss your ass too much or anything, even though I like to do that from time to time.
Oh,
it's a fun thing for me. You're doing a great job, man. And I really appreciate you putting this together and being the guy you are, because you are a fucking linchpin for this entire core community. And it would not be the same if you didn't exist, sir. So
fuck yeah, Lee.
That's all I gotta say.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, Lee.
I agree, Lee. It's a lot of work, and obviously I could see you adjusting me in the window every 5 seconds.
So I didn't even bring up the windows tonight.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work for those of you that don't know and don't do this kind of thing. I mean, to handle all this and to put it all together is a lot of work, and my hat goes off to you. I think you've done all things considered with some of the stutters we've had at the beginning of some of the streams and things. I think you've done a great job.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cody, what do you got coming on tap, brother?
Yeah. First of all, you and Mike both took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say that to the chat too. Also, thank you to everybody that gave us super chats. I apologize if you did a question with your super chat, but for the same exact reason that Lee just said, it's extremely difficult. We went for 3 hours. I still don't even feel like we covered half the movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just how it goes. Also, to address the chat before this guy has an aneurysm, there's been a guy asking the same question for over an hour and a half. The reason why Karen and the granddaughter don't have the dad's last name is because he's a puss, and he probably did the Saving Silverman and took her last name. So there's your answer. Beyond that,
perfect.
What's coming around the corner for me? I'm still kind of recuperating from Halloween. That really took a lot of my energy away. But I'm still going to do a ranking of the Myers portrayals. I'm still going to do a ranking of the masks, so those will be out pretty soon. I wish I would have got them in before Halloween, but shit happens. I'm going to be focusing a lot, which I'm sure Lee's going to echo the same thing on Patreon requests this month. So some of the Patreon requests I have is Demon Night, Fright Night, Inception. We need to talk about Kevin. That one's already actually recorded. Creed 2, I'll do a review for that when it comes out. If I happen to see Bohemian Rhapsody this weekend, I might do a review for that. There's something else that comes out in November. Suspiria, if I ever get a chance to see that, I'll probably review that. But it's going to be mostly patron driven for the most part from here, probably till the end of the year, off and on for me.
Cool. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a really good night. And until the next Hallow stream, you guys have a great night.